2014, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Remember our troops abroad and their families here at home. Thank you. Will the council join up today for a special presentation? A local business. So I'd like to call up Carl Crabb. Carl, as you may or may not know, is a morning DJ at Rat Radio. Carl heard about our idea about getting two families home in time for the summer, our Home by Summer fundraiser. So they had their own idea, their own volition. They got, how many tickets?
We got 2 tickets.
2 tickets to Van Halen at PNC. G. Murray's already got his tickets, he's going. And they decided to auction them off, and the proceeds of that auction, he's going to present us with tonight, that are going to go to help these 2 families. And again, if you're my age, Van Halen's pretty cool. Anyway, so let me turn it over to you, Paul.
We were very pleased to get the support of Live Nation, who is the promoter of the Art Center, who donated these tickets. And we were very happy with the reaction from our audience. A number of donation amounts were suggested, and the final amount that was raised was above the ticket price of the actual face value of the tickets. So I'm here to drop off $551.50.
$551.51.
550 cents. So the number is reflective of the Van Halen album that came out in 1986, 5150. So,
well, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. The applause really should go to Ben Fisher of Point Pleasant.
All right, Ben.
Who was the
Cash.
And it's cash. And the 50 cents.
Wrap this up and go to Tom. Wrap my heart. But I think we're going to say hi to the council. You know, Councilman Brennan.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Here's to a great summer. May it be beautiful weather and profitable, and hope everyone comes to Belmar.
Yes.
Cheers.
Next, we have a special presentation for a Belmar resident who also was just in charge of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh for the past 2 years. Did a tremendous job, particularly with everything they did for our community after Sandy. So I'd like to call up Matt Sharon. And I'd also like to bring up the current president of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh, Billy Ryan. This is a resolution honoring Matt Sheridan, President of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh. Whereas the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh are located on 16th Avenue in Belmar and has been a steadfast partner to the Borough of Belmar throughout its tenure. And whereas Matt Sharon has been President of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh for the past 2 years. And whereas Matt has been instrumental part of the community involvement of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh, donating countless volunteer hours, providing food baskets for less fortunate, running toy drives for Christmas, donating food to Military Appreciation Day and Safety Day, as well as consistently and generously donating funds towards local organizations and programs. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Mayor and Council and all the residents of the Borough of Belmar that Matt Sharon be honored and thanked for all of his many years of support to the Belmar community as President of the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh.
Listen, I want to thank the Mayor and Council for this honor, but truly it's you're just a ringmaster. There's so many men and women that help raise funds and make sure that everybody is out there and having a good time raising those funds and
Council. Billy Ryan wants to say a few words. He's the current president.
I just want to thank Matt for all his leadership and guidance through the last couple of years. He's a leader and a rock of our club, and I hope to continue to follow in his footsteps, to be a good charitable and corporate citizen of this community, continue to support you any way we can.
All right, shall we? Next is our workshop. We're going to reverse things a little bit so that Mr. Dvorak is not stuck here talking to us all night. So let's bring up Lori Dvorak. We can move the microphone to the middle for Lori. Thanks so much. Lori, it's always a pleasure having you here with us, but usually that means we're spending money.
You are spending some money, but I think the two recommendations I have, we're doing it prudently and appropriately under the circumstances. There are two lawsuits that I'm presenting to you for your consideration. The first one is Dassel versus the Borough of Belmar. We have worked at a proposed settlement. The insurance fund, of which you are a member, has asked if you object to the settlement. That is the question. If you do not object to the settlement, they will proceed to settle the case. If you determine that you object to the settlement, they will take the proposed amount of settlement, turn it over to you, and you will, that would be the extent of their coverage at this point, because they are recommending that the settlement be entered into. So they would offer this amount of money to you, and then you would be required to pay the cost of defense in any future judgment, since they are recommending this and they are willing to pay this to resolve the matter in its entirety. The Dassel matter, the proposed amount is $15,000 in settlement of the claim. This is an employee who came to you through, I want to say, Department of Employment Assistance. He came in through the county and came to you along with a number of other employees who were temporary employees here at the borough. You were reimbursed for the cost of their salary to aid in the cleanup after Sandy. Amongst these employees, this employee said he came forward and complained that other employees were utilizing illegal drugs. And that thereafter, at some point, everyone was drug tested and a number of people were fired. He claims he was fired, although we have no record that he was fired. We have a record that he didn't show up anymore. However, some of the people that we would need to testify to this were likewise other temporary employees who have since moved on, some of whom were ones who were fired, who will say that he was not a very good employee and that he did not perform all of his duties, and that was, he just decided he wasn't going to come anymore because he couldn't hold his weight. There's a question of fact. The case is certainly defensible. However, the proposal we have for you is in the dollar value range that the insurance fund believes that it's most appropriate to spend money, gain some certainty, move on to this thing. So if we have some problems of finding some of our witnesses, some witnesses are county employees, some witnesses have moved on, and we're having difficulty locating some of them. So we have a defense, but the time and effort to prove you're right would be much more expensive than what we are proposing in this case.
Any questions for Ms. Dvorak while she's here? Would I have to make a motion to?
Motion to accept the recommendation of the judge.
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of the judge.
Councilman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nichols?
Yes.
Yes.
The second matter I'm here to present to you tonight is the matter of Zach versus the Borough of Belmar. This matter has been in litigation. I believe the lawsuit was originally filed in 2011. It involved a part-time seasonal lifeguard who was terminated and filed a lawsuit claiming both discrimination and retaliation, or a whistleblower claim. Both of these claims are fee-shifting claims. They've been litigated for a number of years. The borough and its 4 individuals who were named in the lawsuit have vigorously defended the lawsuit. However, we have now come to the point where the plaintiff's demand has dropped down from the hundreds of thousands of dollars to a demand of $50,000. The insurance fund is recommending the settlement of $50,000. The lifeguards who are involved in this stand ready and have been willing and are able to defend the case. We believe we have a meritorious defense, but certainly the time, cost, and effort of this case may far exceed what we're talking about resolving it at. Again, a trial may occur and you may win at the trial, but in all likelihood there would be an appeal, there could be a retrial. I can speculate as to the up and downs of it, but certainly the costs become very expensive as well as the time and effort involved in it. At this point, the insurance company has agreed to pay that settlement, and I bring it before you for your consideration again.
What's that total now?
$50,000.
How much of that would you be responsible for?
At this point, there's a deductible, which you probably already met through defense counsel costs. So you are now in your co-pay phase. So of the $50,000, your portion is 20 cents on the dollar. So 10 of the 50 would be what would come to you because of this settlement at this point.
Okay. And again, this is your recommendation as well.
Yes.
Any questions from council members?
If this is accepted, will this person be able to come back after this, or is it over and done with?
For everything that happens up through the date of the settlement,
Yes.
it is completely covered. From that date forward, you can't release future claims, but for everything up through that date, or basically today when we sign the settlement papers, whatever date is fixed in and about this current time frame will be the final date. Everything before that will be covered in this release. Anything that happens thereafter in the future will not be.
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Councilwoman Piedmont?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery?
You know, since I worked with all these people and I'm personal friends with Jeff Zach, I think I'm going to abstain.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Dyer?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Gloria, your work here is done.
Everyone have a good night. Thank you.
You don't do that. All right. All right, our next item on our workshop is tobacco sales ordinance. You want to talk about?
We had forwarded for the council members' consideration an ordinance that was referred in our last meeting, or discussed briefly in our last meeing, and forwarded to our office by Michael DuPont, who oversaw a similar ordinance enactment in Sayreville, I believe, whereby the age for sale of tobacco products would be restricted within the borough of Belmar to age 21. So you wanted, I believe the council expressed a desire to tee it up for a workshop discussion here today, and chat about the possible benefits or challenges that such an ordinance might bring. I will tell you that I did take the opportunity just to share the draft ordinance with our neighboring towns, to let them know that we were considering it, and it may or may not come up in their towns, but they may want to just keep an eye on what we're doing here tonight, because obviously the question immediately was posed that if Belmar's age is restricted to 21, what would stop somebody from going over 16th Avenue to Lake Como to buy a pack of cigarettes? So I've shared that with my colleagues in our neighboring towns just to kind of keep them abreast of where we are.
And maybe our council could shed some light on this. I remember reading when I did some research on this, that there's a movement on a state level to bump it up to age 18, which I think maybe Senator Cody is proposing.
Yep, and what you have here, you have, I sent an article recently, I think for, it's either Franklin Township or one other town, and essentially the magnitude of the cancer-related deaths by cigarettes, especially in young people, is just astronomical. And so the question is, by taking this step, do you, help prevent that? Having right now facing cancer in my family, I know that it's devastating. I know Brian also faced it. And if there's one way that you can save a life, then it might be worth it. There is some arguments, I will tell you, that some people said, you know what, you can go to war, you can fight, you can enroll in the Army, in the Navy, or the Air Force, or the Marines, and you can't have sex. You know, it's a balancing act. I know Belmar has always prided itself in its Mayor's Wellness campaign, being healthy. You got clean beach streets, and then you have no smoking on the beach. So, in my opinion, it's probably an extension of what Belmar represents, which is a clean, healthy environment, but also a clean, healthy living example.
And if we move forward with it, we would just use the ordinance that we already drafted for.
Yeah, you can put it on the agenda next time, because I'm presuming you'll probably get opposition from some of the conveyance or the convenience stores.
Who wants? What do you got?
You know, this is tough. I should tell everybody, I'm an ex-smoker myself. My mom died from lung cancer. She was a smoker. And I can understand the urge to try to do what we can, you know, for public health. But to be honest with you, my gut reaction is, you know, the age now is 18.
19.
No, you're lowering it to 18, it's 19 now.
It's 19 now?
That's statewide, right?
Yeah, I will tell you honestly, there's a push to statewide, you know, for this discussion, so you might be usurped in the actions you take, you know, because it sounds as if the state's going to enact it. I don't know that for a fact, but I know that there's been discussions on it.
Well, if the state wants to do that, you know, that's up to them, but my gut reaction is, I just feel it's just a bit of an overstep. I mean, you know, much as I would hope a 19-year-old would make the smart decision, or a 20-year-old, or you put it, make the smart decision, it's their decision, and I don't think we're really in a position to tell them that. And I don't feel that I personally could tell them, you know, you're not allowed to do that. I would tell them I don't think you should, but I'm in a position to say, no, you can't, and I just don't feel like I should say that.
How many other towns or cities have adopted it?
You'll probably be like the 4th or 5th, and there's 560 some municipalities in New Jersey. It's less than a handful, I'll tell you that much.
I think it's tough because I'm just very, very pro-business, especially trying to keep businesses in Belmar.
Well, you would receive, I will tell you that the towns that have been proposed, you did receive some opposition from those businesses that sold cigarettes.
I like what Tom said. I'm not a smoker. My question is, how enforceable is it? I mean, right now it's 19. I don't know how many tickets our police department has issued to anybody 18.
That's a good question. How do they enforce it now? It's a state law. So you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
state investigators?
Well, that would happen, but also you get a tip that they're selling underage
Minors.
There is a question on enforcement, that's a legitimate issue.
Is it illegal for an 18-year-old to be smoking, or just illegal for a store to sell it to them?
To sell.
So it's illegal to sell it, but not illegal to smoke. Well, that just, you know, I'll let the state make the decision. I think I'm gonna stay away from that until the state comes down with a statute on it. So I wouldn't be for in Belmar.
I would be for it. On a personal note, I had a father who passed away at 43 from lung cancer. He was a teenager when he started smoking. A mother who passed away at 71 from emphysema. She was a teenager when she started smoking. If it was up to me, I'd ban smoking everywhere except in the privacy of your home. I think it's bad. The secondhand smoke, I certainly understand that there's very bad health situations with that. I think the older that we made it available for anybody, the better it would be. I flew with a lot of flight attendants who were all 20, 21 years old, and all were 18, 19, 17 when they started. At 20, 21, they were unable to stop smoking, and that's a shame.
I would be for it too. But it looks as though you and I may be the minority here. And I share Councilman Nicolet's concern too about putting our businesses at a competitive disadvantage to ones that are right across the street, 16th Avenue or Avon. Maybe we could figure out a compromise where what would the council feel if we did a resolution supporting the legislation on the state level to make it 21 across the board?
What would that accomplish?
I would just support the legislation that's pending before at least in front of the Senate now.
I don't know, I just can't see how you can enforce it so in other words, what you're saying, if it's statewide, then they can't go across the street to, okay, yeah, I could go with that. If they want to ban it to 21, but then I go to the argument where, if you're in the Army and Navy and they send you over to cross the seas to fight and then tell you when you come back that you can't smoke a cigarette and then...
That's true, they also tell you can't smoke it.
So I'm not going to be opposed to that. I mean, unless they want to go further and say they can't send any soldiers overseas until they're 21. All right? Yeah, I'll back.
How about, let's
if they
just
do
not
that.
even send soldiers overseas?
That would be great. No more war. How about the statute? No more war.
I like that. All right, well, maybe we can come up with the council, resolution.
You can take that ordinance and get the resolution and move on to it.
That's all for workshop discussion. Does anyone start for workshop? All right, next petitions.
You know what, maybe I do. Because I see on this ordinance that for the signs, maybe want to address it now before we get to voting on it. Last night at the planning board did not make a recommendation. Matter of fact, it was unanimous not to pass this tonight. The planning board would like to, instead of taking out all of section C, leaving section C and then addressing directly how we can help the bed and breakfasts where what this change is suggested to help. Doug Kovats, the attorney, had some good ideas, and we liked what he was saying. Because down the road, if we throw out section C, we don't know how someone, maybe in a couple of years, would come down here and take advantage of those things, saying what you can't do. In other words, they'll say, well, it doesn't say you can't do that. It used to, but it doesn't say that anymore. So if we leave section C in, according to the planning board attorney, and kind of address it so that it specifically helps the bed and breakfast, that was his recommendation, and the planning board was unanimous of the 6 people that were here last night.
All right, this actually is on for second reading and public hearing. So you want to wait till we have actually a public hearing and we have comments from the public?
Okay. I figured I'd bring it to your attention now, so we could...
Because otherwise, the public doesn't comment during workshops.
Right.
So let me request again if there are any petitions for the council. See any? Approval of the minutes?
I move that the minutes of the meeting held on May 5th, 2015 be approved as reported, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
Councilwoman Keeler-Meinhardt?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Gardner?
Yes. Next are reports of council. Council President?
Okay, first thing I want to report on is that the Belmar Historical Society at the meeting last week, they're pushing for a Tuesday, June 9th at 7 p.m. Belmar Movies Night. And they have a gentleman coming down and talking about the history of the movies in Belmar. Plus, they're going to have a panel of 3 people. Paul Caverly, born and raised in Belmar, Pat Malango, born and raised in Belmar, and myself will sit on the panel and we'll talk about the movies that were in Belmar, the Rivoli, the Rialto, the Belmar Cinema. And Naomi Reisner just told me yesterday that she Googled it on at the museum, Belmar Historical Museum, that there used to be 2 other movie theaters in Belmar before that, one on 4th Avenue in Ocean and one on 10th Avenue and Main Street that preceded both the Rivoli and the Rialto. So if those people out here in the audience, if you know Paul Caverly, he's just a treasure of Belmar knowledge. And Pat Malango's been here her entire life. And I don't want to divulge her age, but it's in the 70s. And she's got a great mind for what used to be in Belmar. And they've all attended both the Rivoli, the Rialto, and Belmar Cinema. So I recommend that on Tuesday, June 9th, you mark it down on your calendar in the Belmar Community Room right outside in the lobby. Also, it is now May 19th, and no Kennedy East have hatched this year. So that is 11 years in a row, and only 3 have hatched. So that's my report.
Not good for the county.
Actually, I found out something. The one nest, she left it, got rid of the eggs. I came back a week later, and she laid some more eggs. Sneaky. But I got it.
Determination.
The omelette-ator.
Councilwoman Gail Blackburn?
First of all, I know one Belmar resident that this past Sunday ran up the steps of the Freedom Tower on the race that they had. 90 stories, approximately 2,000 steps, 19 minutes and 40 seconds.
Wasn't that hard?
Cynthia Kemp.
Cynthia.
And if anyone else from Belmar did that feat, congratulations to you.
I couldn't fall down those steps.
I almost passed out when she told me 19, well, she didn't even tell me 19 minutes and 40 seconds. She said around 20. Somebody else told me 1940. Tomorrow is the senior luncheon, 11 a.m. here in the gym. Bill Skillender will be talking about identity theft, and the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh were here this evening, and they will be providing the food for the senior luncheon tomorrow. So we do thank them again. The 28th of May, the ADA committee will be starting a mobility device exchange. I mentioned it before. We'll be having our ADA meeting at the First Aid Squad that evening at 6 p.m. So from 6 till 7 p.m., if anyone has anything, a wheelchair, crutches, a walker that you no longer would want and you don't want to store in your house, please bring them, give them to us. They will be available to any Belmar resident to borrow in their needs. So a mobility exchange will be starting on the 28th of May. The Belmar Women's Club Flower Show is June the 10th at Doolin's, $40 for the luncheon. Claire Dykey has the information on getting tickets. The library's fashion show and luncheon is the 16th of June at the library downstairs, and it's always very, very nice. All of the fashion models are workers down or volunteers from the Visiting Nurse Association down in Manasquan. Upcoming trips. Battleship to New Jersey is the 25th of June. There are still tickets available. The ticket price includes the bus from Belmar and back to Belmar. Has this been canceled?
I don't know for sure. I know the numbers aren't good, and we need to make decisions soon.
Okay, but right now there are still tickets, and it's still ongoing. It also includes your ticket into the Battleship. The tall ships will be on the Delaware that day, and that is wonderful to see if you didn't see them in New York many, many years ago. And it includes a round-trip ticket over to, on the ferry, over to Penn's Landing and into, for the Tall Ships, the festival. And I'd like to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bryant?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to report that my friend, the lovely Joan Corallo, handed me this. I'm really happy about this. The Veterans of Foreign Wars Massachusetts Post, 1838, is going to hold Memorial Day services this Monday, May 25th, at the Monument Row on Main Street, between 12th and 13th Avenue. That's at 9:30 a.m. Very happy to be here that we're going to be doing this. This is a wonderful Belmar tradition. The Belmar School Band will be supplying some trumpet players, I can tell you that. And I want to thank Joe for handing me this. Really, I'll get ready to email you, find out what's going on, if you know. And the only other thing I have to report, I know Councilwoman Nicolay usually reports on school stuff, but I have to tell you about the Belmar School Eagle Band, of which some people we know are members, performed at one of the high note adjudications yesterday. They performed, on Friday, for two judges. One's Perry is a retired band director at Edgebury Park High School, and he's also very active in the New Jersey Music Educators Association. Second judge was Dr. Dick Lowenthal, Richard Lowenthal from New Jersey City University, my alma mater. I'm happy to report that the students in the Belmar Eagle Band received the highest grade possible. They got a superior rating. They did a wonderful job. I got to tell you, we have over 80 students, 4th grade through 8th grade in this band. And I couldn't be prouder, not only of the way they performed, but also of their behavior, their attitude, the way they carried themselves. They were extremely cooperative, they were very attentive, and they really did a heck of a job. The concert chorus, under the direction of Carrie White, also performed. They received a grade of excellent. There's 80 students in that group also. We have a very, very active performing arts program at Belmar Elementary School. And I just wanted to say that Julia Nicolay did an outstanding job on the trumpet, and Hannah Doherty did an incredible job on the cymbals. They were outstanding. So thank you, that's my report. The concert was lovely. It was long. It was lovely. Thank you, that's my report.
Belmar Elementary School, they had their spring concert with the Eagle Band, the first-year band, the Green and Gold Chorus, and the concert chorus. And it was just a tremendous night. Even if you don't have kids that go to the school, it's worth going to the spring concert every year. Very, very proud of them, and Mr. Brennan and Carrie McNulty White did a tremendous job. My reports. The BBP testified at the public hearing on the proposed New Jersey Transit fare hikes and service cuts Monday, May 18th. The BBP recommended that New Jersey Transit look at bringing back reduced off-peak fares to make sure we don't lose train riding visitors to Belmar. The BBP talked with New Jersey Transit about marketing the new one-seat ride trains to New York Penn Station, which began yesterday. The BBP, I'm sounding like it's a radio station, the BBP then sent around an advisory blurb to businesses with details on how to market with New Jersey Transit and with the marketing contacts email. We are getting a Belmar Monopoly board game, a real Monopoly game, and there are 7 properties remaining. So please, if your business wants to make sure it isn't left out, please contact Christine Reed at the Belmar Women's Club. Claire, how do they contact her? Is there a certain number?
She has an email that I can, I don't have it with me.
Or if you want to contact her hall, and we'll get her information.
Yeah, contact her all.
Tomorrow night, what's tonight? Thursday night. Thursday night, cruise nights are back, beginning this Thursday, so if you're, if your wheels date before 1986, or if you have a motorcycle, just come on down between 8th and 10th. I'm not sure how many years we've done this, but it's been a huge success. It gets bigger and bigger every year, and this is the, trying to think, what Thursday? Is it the third Thursday of each month? So, and that'll run through the summer. The Belmar Recreation Department is doing a bus trip to On Your Feet. It's a Broadway musical. Saturday, November 14th, $75 a person. It will leave Piano Plaza at 10. And showtime is at 2. For information, contact recreation@belmar.com or visit Borough Hall. As you can tell, the town is pink as can be, thanks to everybody at Borough Hall, Colleen, Matt, the whole council. Everybody's been extremely involved. Claire Dykey, cannot thank you and Janice enough for everything that our groups put together. But we wanted to just remind everybody that May 24th, we are doing the Guinness Book of World Records, trying to break the record for the longest Pinky Swear. It will be at Silver Lake. Starting registration is at 11 o'clock, and the connection of pinkies will be at noon. So the record is 331. We are hoping to triple that, hopefully maybe in 1,000 people. So please come out and support a great cause. If you're not aware, Paint the Town Pink is not Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but that's just as important. It's to increase the awareness of the importance of mammograms. So this promise, when everybody connects their pinkies, they're promising to tell at least one person the importance of a mammogram. So again, May 24th, Sunday, weekend of Memorial Day at 11 o'clock through 12 is registration, and then we'll do our swearing. And we did a ribbon cutting, speaking of ribbons, we did a ribbon cutting at Beach House Brewery last week, and it was a great turnout. The place is beautiful. They did a great job. They reused a lot of the wood that was part of Friedman's Bakery, and it's a nice addition to the town. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to defer to Councilman McGovern, who wanted to amend his.
Yeah, I wanted to, Tom Volker, do you know whose grandson won the 100-meter Monmouth County sprint? Listen, you know, it was that football player-looking kid that was way ahead of everybody else in the photograph. How do you do in the short conference?
I haven't heard yet.
Okay. What school is he going to next year, Councilman McGovern?
Princeton? Somewhere in New Jersey, Princeton, to play
I
football.
heard it's a pretty good school.
So he's the fastest.
Really old.
So he's the fastest runner in the county.
Well, he, in the next race he was in was a 200 meter, and he came in third, but I told him he only needed 100 meters as far as a football player goes.
That's right. Congratulations, Tom.
Congratulations. Gets it from his grandmother, I'm sure. The only thing I wanted to really report on, I'm not sure if people do know or don't know, but we've been served with yet another lawsuit. This lawsuit would move expenses that are currently against the beach utility and put those expenses on the backs of taxpayers, everyone here. And the reason why I want to kind of bring it up now is you're going to see a great example of one of those expenses this coming weekend. If you saw the forecast for this weekend, it looks great. Our town is going to be packed this weekend. It creates certain public safety issues for our police department. Great example is the corner of 16th and Ocean. 16th and Ocean is extremely busy. The chief will put one, maybe two specials down there to control traffic. May have to do the same thing on 10th and Ocean. Prior to me being mayor, the expense for those police officers was borne by the taxpayers in the borough of Belmar. Since I've become mayor, we now put those expenses against the beach utility. I did this after consulting with the current, or at the time, the public advocate, Ron Chen. Now, the public advocate is the person who sues and brings these cases of lack of public access and things like that. And I explained to him, you know, the reason why we have to have police in these areas and in other areas, which is an example, is because there's a lot of traffic there. And there's a lot of traffic because people are going to the beach. So if people are going to the beach, and we are very welcoming, we're very affordable, we let you bring your own food, you know, children are free, we're very open and easy access to middle class, we have free bathrooms, we have free playground equipment, a whole bunch of great stuff for middle class families. The expenses that we incur for that really shouldn't be borne by the taxpayers, it should be borne properly by the people who use the beach. So if you live in Belmar and you never use the beach, some people don't, why should you have to pay for those police officers that are down there? He agreed, because it makes sense. The lawsuit now would reverse that, would say, obviously we still have to have those police officers there, but now instead of the people who buy beach badges paying for it, you and I would pay for it. Now, to most people, that doesn't make any sense. And in our case, the lawsuit's not coming from somewhere out of town. It's not like someone who's like, hey, I live in Woodbridge and I'm mad I gotta pay to go to the beach, and the beach should be free, and no one should ever have to pay for the beach, and whatever expenses should be borne by the people that live in that community. I don't live there, so I'm gonna sue. Instead, this lawsuit's actually coming from in town. It's completely politically motivated. The attorney on it is the former mayor of Belmar, Ken Pringle. Again, before I was mayor, those expenses were borne by everyone in this room. Since I've become mayor, now those expenses are borne by the people who use the beach, where we properly think they should go. We've been doing this since 2011, and every year when we submit our budget to the state for its review, it all gets approved because we're allocating it properly. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a former mayor who doesn't seem to be able to understand that he's no longer the mayor, and he wants to continue to impose his will. Unfortunately, he can't, so all he can do is sue us. Now, guess who pays for those lawsuits? Mr. DuPont has to read the lawsuit, then he's got to answer it, then he's got to file a motion to dismiss, then he's got to go in front of a judge and argue for that motion to dismiss. Guess who pays for his time? We do. So every time we get served with one of these silly lawsuits, Mike DuPont makes money, we don't pay for it. And also, in the lawsuit itself, the former mayor, Ken Pringle, is asking everyone here to pay his legal fees. So if ever there was a lawsuit that was politically motivated and completely frivolous, it's this one. Now, hopefully, the judge agrees with us and dismisses this, and it doesn't cost us as much money as if all of a sudden we got to go to trial to protect taxpayers simply because people want to come to the beach and we're very open and we want them to come. So this weekend, 10th and Ocean, 16th and Ocean, wherever you see police that have a number 1 or number 2 on their sleeve, just know that right now those folks are getting, the expense of having those people in town is getting paid for by the beachgoers. How would you feel if all of a sudden you had to pay for those police officers? That's my report, and I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. And I don't know if anyone mentioned, but Memorial Day services will take place at 9:30. Oh, you're good? 9:30 on Monday. That's all for me. Next is public session on the resolution calendar, and it looks like everything is on by consent. So this is open for public comment questions on the resolution calendar, and when I have comments, questions, please raise your hand when you be called on and come up to the microphone. Yes, sir.
David Schneider, 302 C Street. I see there's some amendments to the capital budget that's on the resolution calendar. I see Taylor Pavilion and the 10th Avenue building are back on.
What do you mean back on?
while if they're back in the plans, there's financing put in the capital improvement budget.
Yeah, it's a resolution that has 4 components: Fifth Ave Pavilion, Lake Como outflow pipe, streetscape revitalization, and 10th Avenue Pavilion.
Yeah, so the pavilion plans, are they the same exact ones as last year?
They're the same buildings, but at a significantly lower cost.
How was that achieved?
Because during the last year, the council approved a bond for $7 million that included both those buildings plus other bathrooms and other things we were going to get by the beach run as well.
So those things are still going to be done?
Not in this bond.
Not in this bond, but it's still going to be done. So the amount that the borough is spending is still the same, right?
For the individual buildings, but not the bond amount.
Right, but it's not a savings because we're spending that money anyway. It's just not part of the bond, right?
I don't know how to answer that question, but
Well, you just
the
said that
last bond was for $7 million. It included those 2 buildings plus other projects. Those other projects have been removed, so we're just focused on these 2 buildings.
Right, but the other projects have been removed from the bond, but not from our agenda.
They're not on tonight's agenda.
Not this agenda, but on our plan. So those projects are still going forward, right? So
The bathrooms, I mean, I think we actually did the bathrooms.
We went and did that.
Yeah, we did the bathrooms out of, see, we were going to do a bond last year, and with the money, we paid it. So we already had the cash, we just went ahead and purchased them.
okay, so it's really the same amount of money being spent, just at different times, and we're not borrowing as much of it. We're only borrowing 6.1 million instead of 7 million of it. But all the work and all the spending is exactly the same as what the voters rejected last August. Isn't that true?
Well, I know it's not exactly the same, but it's correct that it's 6.1 million for today. It's resolution council.
Yeah, I just have to strongly dissent from this. You know, the voters spoke last August, and there's no substantial difference in what you're doing now than what you did, and the election wasn't even close. And really, I think this is disrespecting the will of the people. You should put it to another vote before you go doing what was so soundly rejected last year. And I also have to strongly object to putting the Lake Como project on the same ordinance as the...
This is about the resolution calendar. This is not an ordinance calendar. So you want to talk about the resolution?
Okay, well, it's part of the resolution calendar because it's in the capital budget, but I guess it's specifically not about the ordinance, so I'll step down for now. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions on the resolution calendar? Yes, sir.
Jim Kramer, 4th Avenue. That resolution that Dave was just referring to there, are you sure that's enough money? The reason I say that is I thought we had to put curbing along 1.3 miles of Ocean Avenue, and it's going to cost some money there. Why isn't that a part of the budget process? It's my understanding that, at least from what I read in the paper, that curbing had to be installed before Monmouth County would pave Ocean Avenue.
Did we already have that in the budget?
That's already in the budget.
Right, this is an amendment to the budget.
Was that appropriated?
This is a resolution authorizing a 2015 capital budget amendment. What you're asking about is already in the capital budget.
Okay, so how much was that? The curbing for Ocean
I don't know
Avenue?
off the top of my head.
I couldn't pick it out either.
I can find out for you, I don't know off the top of my head.
Is it incidental? Is it significant? Is it chump change? Was that some
I'm
idea
sure it's
of
more than
magnitude?
chump change. I'm sure I would think it's significant, but I can't quantify it right now. If you'd asked me to bring the information with me to the meeting, I would have been able to tell you, but if you want us to get us the information to you, we can get it to you.
It was in the original budget documents as a capital item for 2015,
Yes.
and we don't know how much it was.
Not off the top of my head.
How much was the total capital budget for the 2015 and the...
I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, so we're adding to the capital budget
Correct.
more money to what we don't know how much we've already allocated.
All right.
Come on, Mayor Doherty.
Thanks. You made your point. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion for the resolution calendar.
All in favor?
Aye. Next are ordinances. First ordinance.
I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilwoman Keeler Lockhart?
Yes.
Councilman Glover?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Gurke?
Yes. Next is ordinance 2015-22, first reading introduction, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Borough of Belmar and County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating $11,650,000 thereof and authorizing issuance of 4.268350 bonds or notes of the borough to finance part of the cost thereof. This is on for first reading and introduction. I'll go ahead and make I'll offer it for first reading.
I'll second.
Second?
Councilwoman Keeler Lockhart?
Yes.
Councilman Glover?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Gurke?
Before I vote yes, I think it's important to thank the people who have gotten us to where we are today. If you look at the breakdown, the Lake Como outflow pipe, the grant we're receiving is $6.185 million. It's the largest grant that Belmar has ever received from DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. And this is due to our engineers who did a tremendous job. Baser Consulting really did a remarkable job. And just to give you an idea, there's a limited amount of money that DEP is giving out. These are federal dollars that come through HUD, Housing and Urban Development, not FEMA. FEMA doesn't have a competitive process for the money that you need. So when our town was ravaged by Sandy and we needed to rebuild the boardwalk, we didn't have to compete against other towns for that money. We just went ahead with the work, worked with FEMA, they provided the money. Now we're going to be working with FEMA for years, expanding project worksheets, getting additional dollars, working as best we can to get every dollar out there. But when it comes to projects like this, there's a finite timeline for it. Some other folks I want to thank who are in the audience, Mark Fitzgerald and Peter Pyro. Let's hear it for them real fast. One of the things that Colleen came up with, which was a great idea, was to get a real grassroots movement to push us ahead of the competition. And how many letters do you know that we?
About 75 letters.
About 75 letters were sent from residents. Colleen was also able to get letters from Senator Singer, both members of our assembly, Congressman Smith, all supporting our case. But I got to tell you, the person who probably thanked the most on this would be the governor himself. The way we've learned this money gets distributed has nothing to do with the legislature. And they can write letters and we appreciate that, but they don't vote in favor of it or against it. They have no ability to talk about scoring and things like that. Really, it's the top down. That starts with the governor, then the Department of Environmental Protection Commissioner, Bob Martin, who's excellent as well. And, there was a certain event that happened on the second anniversary of Sandy that makes a lot of news, both here and around the country, that happened on our Main Street. But I would tell you the most important thing that happened for our town was I was able to bring Governor Christie to the head of the lake and show him the homes, show him the families, how many people were impacted, and how, as awful as Sandy was, the flooding there can happen in a bad thunderstorm. And, the angst that people go through, and literally sleepless nights, if it's thundering and raining, because they're worried about the water coming over the bank, going into the street, getting over the curb, coming up on their yard a little bit, and hoping that it doesn't get to their house. It made a great impression on me. Every time I saw him since then, which was probably 4 times, different occasions, different venues, he always brought it up. I didn't. He always brought up, Matt, we're working on that pipe. I told Martin, it's important for me. It's got to get done. And I guess it proves the point. There's nothing like actually showing somebody, a decision maker, what we need, why we need it. So big thanks goes to him. Getting back to the grant itself, along with the streetscape, both of them come from HUD. The streetscape is Community Development Block Grant money, and HUD, I think, is also CDBG money that was given out in blocks to the states. With both of them, unlike FEMA, there are time constraints. Remember, we competed against other towns for this money. If we don't use it, we will absolutely lose it. There are other towns that would love to get $6.1 million for a hazard mitigation in their town. And I bring this up because as good a news as all this is, there are actually threats in our own community to building this pipe. One I'll reference on a website. This is a website in Belmar. It's sort of an anti-government right-wing website, and it says no reason why we should pay for the Lake Como pipe. Another line in it says, I would like to know why we're going to pay for Lake Como when it is or was a watershed. Now I gotta tell you, when we talked about doing the pipe for Silver Lake that ran down 8th Street, had no grant money. The taxpayers in Belmar will be paying for that pipe for the next 20 years. No grant money. This has got $6.185 million in grant money. And to think that there are people in our own community who are opposed to doing this project, knowing very well it's going to affect hundreds of families in our town, along with Spring Lake and Lake Como, by the way. And to argue against that is reprehensible. It's an attempt, a vicious attempt, to divide the community and say, you know what, you live in a watershed area anyway. Why should we pay for a pipe? By the way, you're not paying for it, the federal government's paying for it. Their argument is, well, I pay federal taxes, so I'm paying for it. So, it's important to know that, again, this is great news, congratulate everyone, but we're not done yet. It's still got to move forward. Today's the first day of that, doing that, with this bond ordinance. Now, a couple people have emailed me, Matt, why are you combining all these different projects into one ordinance? The answer is simple. And it's actually, there are going to be 2 ordinances, there'll be another one, but this one is one ordinance that's got 3 components. The answer is very simple. It's much more cost effective for us to do one bond. You do one bond, you have one underwriter. You pay that one underwriter at one time. You have one bond counsel, you pay one time. You do 3 separate bonds, or 2 separate bonds, you're paying double or triple the cost. In addition, we can arguably get a better rate. The more you borrow, the better rate you're going to get from the market. Now, interest rates right now are fantastic. And when you look at the money we have from HUD for the grant, for the pipe, from HUD for the streetscape, from FEMA, and from the money we have, $720,000 that we have in cash through our buy board campaign, virtually all of this will be paid off somewhere within 36 months. It's very, very similar to the boardwalk itself, where we went out and we bonded, then we get reimbursed. So in other words, we can't use this grant unless we bond first. We can't use FEMA money unless we bond first. If we don't bond, the FEMA money will stay there, to be honest with you, but we can't utilize it. If we don't approve this bond, the grant money goes to another town. It's gonna go to another town. And I would tell you another thing, and I talked with a couple residents in the neighborhood, I don't want to divulge their age, but they can speak for the last 50 years or more. And that this has been a problem. Lake Como wasn't a problem just during Irene and Sandy, but it's been a problem for decades. Here's our opportunity to solve it. This opportunity is not going to come again. This money isn't something that reoccurs. It's a one-time opportunity. And it's interesting, because as bad as Sandy was, if it wasn't for Sandy, this money would not be available for us to put in a long-term solution, a long-term fix. And a 60-inch pipe going way out into the ocean, completely in Belmar, so we control it. I know there's frustrations with folks because they see, that it's up to Spring Lake as to whether or not they put the pumps on. Well, it's on Spring Lake's property. We pay for it through an interlocal, but they're really the ones making the decision. In this case, this thing is completely ours. It's a little bit on Spring Lake's land, but we're the ones who control the pipe itself and when to drain it ahead of any upcoming storms. And it's going to have a backflow mechanism on it, so water's not going to come rushing in. The pipe that is there now is shot. It's shot. It's been broken, repaired, broken, repaired, broken, repaired. A bad storm and it'll get broke again and that'll get repaired. This is the right way to do it. And what we need again, sort of like getting those letters out there, is we need people, a grassroots campaign, to make sure that we do utilize this grant, that we do move forward on this pipe, and that we do protect all those homes around Lake Como. With that, I vote yes for introduction. Next is ordinance 2015-23, bond ordinance providing for the construction of the 10th Avenue Pavilion named by the Borough of Belmar, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating $2 million thereof, authorizing issuance $1,000,009 bonds or notes of the Borough of Belmar to finance the cost.
Second.
Councilwoman Keon Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Douglas?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicolai?
Yes.
Mayor Dowling?
Yes. The reason why that's a separate bond, just so everyone knows, is because that bond is being put against the beach utility. Now, 100% of the cost for this will not be on the beach utility. It'll get allocated later. Much like right now, 100% of the Taylor Pavilion is being put against the general fund. It's not going to be 100%. It's going to be allocated later, and some of that cost will be moved on to the beach utility itself. So there'll be a swap between the two of them. But this makes the most sense because most of 10th Avenue, we believe, is beach related. You can make the case that most of Taylor is 50% of it is split. Next is ordinance 2015-18, ordinance Borough of Belmar establishing an energy and natural gas aggregation program. This is now on for second reading and public hearing. Any public comments, questions on this, please raise your hand with your call, come to the microphone. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
I don't know if you were pointing to somebody behind me, Joan Cromwell, A Street. According to the ordinance, we will have the opportunity to opt out.
Correct.
You'll be notifying us timely or whatever after, I assume you're going to vote yes for this.
All this ordinance does is allow Mazer Consulting to go out to the market and shop the marketplace and see if they can get better pricing for wholesale energy for Belmar. If they can't get it, then we don't move forward. If it's the same, we don't move forward. If it's 15% less, then we would move forward. At that time, we would notify you, and if you wanted to pay 15% higher than your neighbor, you could say, I want to opt out, I want to pay more. always have that option.
I understand. There's a lot of those energy type things out there where you can opt and not go with your normal carrier, if that's the right word. Usually it's a contract for a year or two, or would that be the same issue?
You
It
can
would be
opt
like
out anytime you want.
I'm not talking about me opting out, I mean, that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm talking about the borough. If you wanna opt out,
Borough can opt out anytime it wants.
anytime they want. If a majority of people chose to opt out, would that have a bearing on your decision to go with this type of a deal?
What's gonna have a bearing on the town's decision to go with this deal or not is whether or not it's less than what the current wholesale cost is. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
You save money.
Would someone be able to opt in?
Well, everyone would be included. So the idea you can opt out, you can opt in, but I don't think businesses can opt in. Or businesses can opt in.
Yeah, it's an opt-out for residents and opt-in for commercial properties.
Opt out for business,
So when you find out your neighbor is paying 15% less, is there a certain period of time, like for insurance and open time where you can opt in? Or are you, like if you opt out, are you out for a year?
It doesn't sound like it was any time.
No, you can opt in or opt out, and it's a phone call. I mean, it's pretty simple.
And again, that will all be part of should the prices come back in Belmar residents' favor, there will be a whole other discussion that we'll have here at council.
There will be disclosures that are required by the energy aggregate.
Right. But we're not to that point yet.
No, and all the residents will get that.
And once you opt in, is it by the year, and then it's looked at again and recalculated?
There's a price lock in how they did the package, and there's also a price max, where essentially if JCP&L rates, for lack of a better example, were to dip suddenly, the provider has to match those rates. So there is a safety lock in the bid package.
And I think that's a good point, because the wholesaler is not JCP&L. The wholesaler is another company whose name might escape me that's on your bill, but you can see it. JCP&L maintains the outside plant, maintains the infrastructure. So if your line goes down, you still call it JCP&L. If for some reason you're doing work to your house and you need it turned off, you call JCP&L. So you can still call them, the 1-800 lights or something like that. You still call the same number. It's just who's providing them the energy to provide to your.
You're going out to the market and buying the product, is what it is.
Right.
And then JCP&L is delivering the product.
And again, if at any time their current wholesaler is above, as the market is, which if you think about it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if the market's above the wholesaler that JCPL currently has, you can always go back to that.
And all this is just allowing that to go out to the market to see what the price is going to be.
Correct. This doesn't lock us in anything.
Allows
We're
us
only
to shop.
gonna do it if it saves you money. We're only gonna do it if it saves you money,
Correct.
okay? Only if it saves you money.
Yes, sir.
Gene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. Just reaching out to customers and/or residents. How would that, and what, where is that contact information coming from? Is it the property owner? Does the notice go to? Is it the resident? Is it the ratepayer? Who would be getting the contact or notification here? And actually, there's two utilities involved here. You've just been speaking about JCP&L, but the ordinance that you're proposing here is also proposing natural gas. I have an issue with privacy. If JCP&L or New Jersey Natural Gas is giving customer information to municipalities, I have an issue with that. That's a privacy issue. I don't think the State Board of Public Utilities has ever allowed a public utility to give customer information out to municipalities unless it involves law enforcement. Who is going to be contacted here?
You want to try to answer that? I imagine it's the person who's on the bill. Person who pays that bill.
That's a legitimate question, and off the top of my head, I don't know. I know a few of the towns that I hear have done this. That's a legitimate question, and that's a question that I think.
Well, I think it's a question for the next phase of this.
Right, it is a question of the next phase, but it's a good question that has to be addressed, and off the top of my head, I do not know that answer.
Okay, and I guess the second question here is, number one, let me just, electricity I don't care about. I haven't purchased electricity since 2008. But natural gas, is this going to be an either or you can pick and choose? In other words, is this going to be bundled together, natural gas and electricity? Or can you choose either natural gas or electricity or none?
You can choose either one. Not one.
And how would the borough be making its decision if perhaps the natural gas deal is not as good as the electric deal? Is there any possibility here that that the borough would only check, choose to go with one commodity?
The goal here is to save our residents money. So if that means the electricity is
Is it residents' money or is it ratepayers' money?
The ratepayers are the residents, Gene. Gene, it's real simple. If the wholesale electric they can get on the open market is cheaper than the wholesale electric that's on the bill that we receive in our homes, we're going to move forward on that. If the wholesale gas is more expensive than the wholesale gas we receive in our homes, we're not going to move forward.
Okay, so this ordinance covers both natural gas and electric.
This ordinance simply allows Mazer to go out and shop the market. It doesn't change anything for anyone. They shop the market. We'll have a public hearing in advance of any decision to go with anyone other than the wholesale provider on either your electric or your gas tonight.
Okay, thank you.
So, other questions or comments? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2015-19?
18.
Oh, sorry, 18.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll offer and move for adoption. Ordinance 2015-18.
Councilwoman Keel Blackburn?
My only concern, I'm certainly for saving money, my only concern also is notifying the residents. I think Belmar does a pretty good job of that. We get letters from the town. We have the reverse 911, I'll call it, the code blue or the code red. We have 2 newspapers that we work with, and I would like to see us utilize every possible means that we have to notify everybody prior to doing this. There was a letter in the Asbury Park Press from someone in Little Egg Harbor a couple of weeks ago about this, and apparently they were not notified. So I'm hoping that we make sure everybody in town knows, whether they're a renter or a property owner. So I'll vote yes.
Councilwoman Dever?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
So I want to say that there's some legitimate questions and points that have raised from the public hearing. And I just want to say, I mean, the only reason, I'm really in favor of this because if only it's saving money. The idea is to save some people money on their bills, and if it's not going to do that, we're not going to do it. So I vote yes.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Doherty?
Yes. Next is ordinance 2015-19, which we touched upon a little bit during the workshop. Ordinance amending chapter 60? No. 40. Development regulations, section 40-7.24, signs of revised ordinance of the Borough of Belmar. How should we proceed with this? Should we have council discussion, then open it for public comment, or public comment, then council discussion?
No, that's then council discussion.
Okay. So it's now open for public comment. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
All in favor?
So we can discuss it, I'll make a motion, right, I'll make a motion to move.
What do you want to table, right?
Well,
I mean, based on.
well, all right, let's have a discussion first.
I mean, I think that's good.
Yeah, why don't we discuss it, and then we'll vote on tabling.
So tell us, your concerns and what you.
Okay, last night at the planning board meeting, it was the only topic that was discussed, because there were no other applications in front of us. Everyone in the planning board was in favor of the idea of the ordinance to help the bed and breakfasts in town with signage. But they felt by eliminating section C in its entirety might, in a couple of years, become a problem for us, for someone that has plans for a sign that we are not thinking of yet. Because right now, it tells you what kind of the sign you can have. By eliminating it, it doesn't tell you what you can't have. So really, like, when you come to, I'll go back to my basketball experience, there is a rule, and the rule says one thing, but just as important as what the rule says is what it doesn't say, and that's where the good officiating comes in. So Doug Kovacs, the attorney, suggested there's probably a better way to do this ordinance than eliminating the entire C section. So I would recommend that we probably table it.
What was his recommendation?
He wanted to think about it a little bit more, but he would address it specifically that the bed and breakfasts in a residential area could have this type of signage right now, which is excluded.
Right, but I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Colleen, take something like the Belmar Mall.
Okay?
It has a bunch of different businesses in that area. They would like to have a sign that listed all the businesses in that area. That's strictly prohibited under the current ordinance. I always thought, I mean, not that I don't love our Airbnbs in town, but I always thought that this was more towards the businesses, particularly in that strip mall and around it, because there's going to be more coming in, to be honest with you. The back of Freedom's is now going to be additional businesses as well. And there's no signage whatsoever. So I know they wanted to put a sign on 8th Avenue, and when we looked at it, they were strictly prohibited from doing that.
Listing the businesses.
So list the businesses, so you list like, 10th Avenue Burrito, Dream Shore Barbecue, West Moline, things like that. There's no place on either 8th or 10th as you come in. There's nothing on Route 35 that tells you where those businesses are. So what I would sort of contend is, I'd rather amend the ordinance, take it out, and if Doug or the planning board say, listen, let's put this in, let's put some rules in that make sense. But right now, honestly, we have businesses that aren't allowed to put signage on the road, and to me, that just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good point, which leads me to suggest that the planning board has a sign committee. Well, let's bring it to them and have them study it. And I don't think they're opposed to having signage for the proper reasons. But when you take that whole section out, they feel as if someone down the road can take advantage of that, and we get signs. I think, can you remember at the North Lake Drive and Fifth Avenue and C Street, when they put in that roundabout, how many signs they had telling you, got to a point where you had to take the signs down. So I think it would behoove us to send this to the planning board to have their sign committee study it before we start putting up signs that might allow someone else in a couple of years to do something we don't want them to do, but they are going to be able to do it because our ordinance doesn't say that they can't do it.
And I remember those signs.
Oh.
That roundabout.
There's
I like that
someone
roundabout.
driving around that like 20 times, just off the sign. They couldn't get out of it. Yeah.
But I would say honestly, I have to respectfully disagree with you. I'd rather eliminate this stuff, and if people want to come up with ideas over next month, we can do this. But I think these folks want to, particularly when you look at what's going on with the back of Freedman's, folks want to start moving in there, and they want to start putting signage out this summer, and not wait for a long time. And again, I don't think it has to wait for 2 years, but, you know, if we kick it back to a signs committee, then it goes back to the planning board, you know, it's months down the road. You know, I'd rather move forward on this, and then, again, if people are like, listen, let's add a restriction, okay, let's add a restriction, that's cool.
I don't know, these people are building like multi-million-dollar building back there. They should have been smart enough to come to us a week before Memorial Day and ask for a change in signs.
I'm so sorry to interject your conversation, but this it has nothing to do with the brewery, actually. The brewery did obtain the correct sign variances that they needed far in advance.
Right, okay, so.
This specifically came out of requests from bed and breakfast owners, but also just a general expression of frustration from businesses in town that, if I could try to summarize their concerns, is the current sign ordinances is so complicated and conflicting that it almost yields to a non-approvable sign for anyone. And so this council has taken steps over the past 2 years to try to streamline it. But I think the mayor has or for what it's worth, my own opinion, a good suggestion in saying, let's ask for some cleanup and recommendations from the planning board. But in the interim, make it easier for people to do business here in Belmar.
And I'd also be interested to see what other towns.
Okay, if we eliminate it now, send it back to the planning board, and the sign committee says that the new signs are illegal, do they have to take those signs down?
No.
So that's the problem. If they put up the signs now, we can't make them take it down.
No, but I guess what's the concern? Like, what kind of signs are they concerned about?
Signs that we don't want, and we're not sure right now what those signs might be, because we're taking the whole section out that describes what kind of signs you can have. You take it out, and someone can put up a sign that says, I can put up that sign because it doesn't say I can't put up that kind of sign.
I would, and you and I are going to disagree on this.
We're going to disagree.
I'd rather err on the side of, I think that, you know, if someone wants to invest in Belmar and bring their business here or operate their business, I'm going to trust that they're going to have a decent sign for it. And I think the more liberty we give them with the sign, I don't think we're going to have sign pollution. I mean, I remember when, I think it was Michio's, when they opened, they're now closed, they were in violation of sign ordinance because every window they had the letter N. It was tastefully done, but technically it was violating the sign ordinance. They did it without looking because they didn't think anyone would actually prohibit that. Because why would anyone prohibit that? And, you know, I'd rather err on the side of allowing people to make up their own signs as opposed to, you know, telling them, you know, what exactly we want. Because how are we going to know what businesses are looking for?
If I could just offer, the role of the zoning officer does not go away in any of this. Whenever a business wants to put up a sign in town, they have to make that presentation to our zoning officer, and it is referred to the sign committee.
That was another thing the planning board said last night. It seems like the zoning officer has a lot more power than we really wanted him to have.
I'm sure
In other words, the planning board should be the ones making the decision and not the zoning officer. And if you take this section out, then it comes to, oh, it's his decision.
And I'm certainly not going to speak for Ted in this moment, but I can tell you based on the multiple conversations I've had with him in my tenure, he sends almost every sign to the sign committee because our ordinance is so complicated. So he does not want to be in the position of being the grant maker, and those sign applications go almost immediately to the sign committee. And again, that speaks to the complication of the ordinance.
So if the ordinance was voted to approve, would the process still continue?
Oh, yeah.
It was just, even though there's no ordinance
Oh, the-
on signage.
So there's still an ordinance, it's
is
just,
long. We were talking about one clause
right, the letter C clause.
of a table. In a footnote.
Now, what will prevent someone who has an office on the second floor of their home, who is, let's say, an electrician, going to put a sign out in front of his house, telling him that he has a business in electric?
But I think this only applies to CBD1 or BC zone.
Brent, I would even refer you to footnote A in the schedule of the footnote, which
Yes.
talks about each building is only allowed one on-sign site. There's separate areas that talk about that kind of restriction. And I'm sorry, it really is a very complicated,
Very-
long ordinance.
Which I think the sign committee, which is why the sign committee was formed, by the planning board. And I would send it to them to let them hash this out. I think we, just had it last night, which was one day before this meeting. As I said, if the people that wanted the signs up for Memorial Day, they had months to think about this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to imply that they're going to by Memorial Day. I'm just saying that they're looking to do it pretty quickly as they occupy some of these places. Again, for the microbrewery, it doesn't directly apply, but those folks, could.
What about their restaurant, 3 restaurants?
No, what I'm saying, if you think about the plaza itself, right? If you're in the back of the old Freedman's, they may work out something with them all where, hey, listen, we want to put a sign, included with you, and the whole parking lot's public property anyway, but, I think we would permit them to put a pylon sign, just to tell you what stores are in there when you make a right off 8th or make a left off 10th if you come into town. So I guess what I'm saying is I'd rather move forward on this. If people want to put restrictions in, let's go ahead and add them, right? But for right now, let's start as much as possible, clean it up, and make it, if it's even able to be, make it as user-friendly as possible.
Question. Would the sign committee be able to meet, when is the next planning board
They
meeting?
meet, was it the 3rd Monday of each month?
Or what about the committee? Could they have recommendations by the 15th of June that would be brought to the council on the 16th to?
I don't think so. I don't think, they'd have to study it. I mean, I think we have to present it to them at a meeting. April could probably find out from Mr. Kovats if that's possible, April. Whether or not, how quickly the sign committee can be study this.
I don't know.
How about we do this? How about we agree to table it tonight? With the idea, we'll bring it back June 3rd.
I can go with that.
Is that fair?
That's fair. Yep.
All right, so I will make a motion to table ordinance 2015-19.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Joe Leffler?
Yes.
Councilman Weber?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Yes, next ordinance 2015-20, ordinance, second reading public hearing ordinance amending supplementing chapter 19, traffic of the general revised ordinance of the Borough of Belmar, section 19-46, handicap parking spaces. It's now open for public hearing. Since no public comment, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll offer and move for adoption. Ordinance 2015-20.
Councilwoman Joe Leffler?
Yes.
Councilman Weber?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Mayor Garrett?
Yes, next is ordinance 2015-21, second reading public hearing. Ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 17, alcoholic beverage control, revised general ordinance of the Borough of Belmar, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, section 17-7.8 BYOB. This is on for public hearing. Any public comment or questions? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll offer and move for adoption, ordinance 2015-21.
Second.
Councilwoman Joe Leffler?
Yes.
Councilman Weber?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Mayor Garrett?
Yes, and just to remind everyone who may not be familiar with this ordinance, what this says, it permits BYOB in art galleries. There's going to be a new art gallery opening on Main Street called Sip and Paint. Paint and Sip. Probably paint before you sip. Sip and paint by numbers. So, which hopefully, when do you think he's set to open? Sometime in June? Sometime in June. That'll be in the business. So anyway, that's the end of our ordinances. Next is public session. Any comments, questions, please raise your hand. We'd be called. Come on up and speak your mind. Yes? No waiting on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Claire Dyke, 1017 14th Avenue. I want to compliment the mayor on his work towards bundling the 3 capital projects. As always, he is looking out for the financial interests of the residents, so I appreciate that very much. I also would like to thank Colleen Connolly and her staff for doing a wonderful job in helping us with Paint the Town Pink. And the program under that umbrella was In the Pink. We had about 80 people in attendance. The place was decorated magnificently. A fantastic speaker from Meridian Health, Dr. Denise Johnson Miller, was very, very informative. I also would like to bring to your attention 2 bills that are pending at the state level regarding the protection of disabled adults, having to do with the gentleman, the autistic young man who was goaded into jumping off the Manasquan Bridge. There are 2 bills pending, one presented by Assemblyman Kane, the other one a bipartisan bill. I think it's Senator Sweeney and Singer. They are scheduling out different levels of punishment through different levels of crime, like a 3rd level crime, a 4th level crime. So I think if you, as we all are here, very much interested in helping the disabled, that you, the mayor and the council, support that.
I think we should do a resolution on our next council meeting.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe they're calling it like a 3rd-degree crime to goad a disabled person into doing something harmful to themselves. And I think that Sweeney and Singer's bill is more specific than Assemblyman Kane's bill, but there's definitely bipartisan interest. We have to very much protect those who cannot protect themselves.
No doubt.
So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike Seebeck, 110 Second Avenue. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just coming up front here to follow up on something I brought up at the last council meeting regarding the 3 resolutions that were passed for the seasonal liquor license. I was not objecting to those licenses whatsoever. What I was bringing to the council's attention was the language in 2 of the 3 differed from the 3rd. And I was wondering if the council has decided to take any action upon that.
I believe that night we approved all 3 as were on the agenda.
So the council has no intention of revisiting that and remedying that discrepancy?
We'll discuss it with our chief of police for future.
That's great. And what I also ask the council again to consider strongly is that in the language of those resolutions, and perhaps resolutions that involve other alcohol establishments, we have language to the effect that our police force is to give seminars and training. And I would like to open a discussion to find out how much benefit we get as residents in the town versus how much liability we may be taking on by having that. Because I have looked at other townships' ordinances regarding the approval of licenses like this, and I have not found any other town that has similar language. So once again, I would like to know, excuse me, if it's possible to qualify, quantify even, the benefit we're getting as taxpayers for having our police give this training versus what potential liability we may have. In the case there's an event and someone picks up on the fact that, well, it says that these people of this establishment receive formal training by the Belmar Police Department. And I have great respect for our police force. I'm actually, my thinking is I think we should be taking them out of harm's way, in addition to the rest of the taxpayers in town, and let the liability and responsibility fall on the establishments themselves. So if you could take that up, I would thank you very much.
And real fast, in your research, you haven't found any other town that has those restrictions or those requirements?
Not the training, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'd be open to see if that's the case in other towns. I'm open-minded about it. The other issue tonight is on the bundled bond ordinance. I have to express the fact that Mark Fitzgerald, Pete Puro, a lot of people in the South End in particular, and the whole town in general, are totally in favor of that. But the way it's packaged together, I think deprives the Belmar residents of input into the building of the other structure, the Taylor Pavilion. And this is something that came to a vote, it was voted on, and the decision was made at the time. And now, your explanation as to why this has to be bundled is to save money for bond issuance. Well, the question I have tonight, Mayor Doherty, is do you know how much we spent with McManaman and Scotland, our bond council last year?
No.
Okay, on December 23rd, we wrote them a check for $146,000. I can't imagine a few dollars more is going to be worth not receiving the input of the residents in town in mass as to what we should be doing on our beachfront with something as important as the Taylor Pavilion. The safety building on 10th Avenue appears to be coming in at a very reasonable cost. I haven't heard a word of objection about it based on the fact it's reasonable in cost and it's functional. The other monies, we ended the year at $17 million in net debt, according to our debt statement. Other towns around us have all seen their debt rise because of Sandy and start coming down. Ours has risen and continues to rise. All I'm saying is I think that all of these people who came out and voted, that attend these meetings, are entitled to have some input. And I think it would reflect very favorably on you if you were to seek real, genuine input on the Taylor Pavilion. Thank you very much.
I would say I think all the members of the council seek and receive input. I've definitely heard people who object to the 10th Avenue Pavilion being built. When I was campaigning going door to door, there were people who said they were going to support me and said they'd vote for me and put a sign out, but they didn't want anything built on the beachfront. They like the way it looks in the winter. There's nothing there. They prefer that. There are people who object to installing the pipe. There will be people who object to putting in the streetscape improvements. There are people that object to the palm trees. There are people that object to the bells ringing at St. Rose. We take input from everyone, but at some point we have to lead, and we have to do what we think is right for the community. As evidence tonight, we think this is the right thing to do for the community.
I think we gotta get rid of those trailers. So once we get the pavilions built, we can get rid of those ugly trailers that are along our boardwalk. And so if we can get started, to build those things, those trailers are gone for next year. And I think that's such a plus for the town of Belmar to get the buildings back.
Mark Fitzgerald, 1902 Surf Avenue. You guys pulled a $6.2 million rabbit out of your hat. And thank you very much. I mean, I want to applaud. $6 million into the town. This is a game changer. And it changes the entire game because going into this, I'm thinking best we're going to do is see maybe half of it when I heard a $6 million cost.
I agree with that.
So when you look at the total, the total spend here, okay, it does make a package deal a lot more appealing than it did if we were going to have to take on $3 million to do the pipe because the state only gave us $3 million. So there's some game-changing events here that people have to recognize that it's different now than it was then. There were people that said, take care of the lake first. The lake's been taken care of. There were people that said, pull it back. We went down from 4 pavilions to 2 pavilions. There were people that said, get rid of the second floor on Taylor Pavilion. Second floor is gone. No rooftop golf. I mean, how much further back can we pull it before there's just gonna be a goddamn shed up there? Okay? So, I mean, at some point, you know, we have to do big things. We have to fix what Sandy broke. And there's a limited opportunity to take advantage of this money and do it now. And if we don't do it now, we're gonna blow it. And I will say, and you know I'm friends with all you guys, but I will say, you have an obligation as council members to take care of this town and get that fixed. Get those pavilions built and get the pipe fixed. Thanks.
John Murray, 214 18th Avenue. I just have a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. Councilwoman Blackburn, you had mentioned the 911, reverse 911. I have to agree with you. It's outstanding. It gives me a lot of information. I don't live down here full-time yet. I hope to in a year or two, so this helps me. I'd like to compliment Public Works. I've had some dealings with them over the last month or so, and they've gotten back to me very quickly, and they've handled all my situations, so I'd like to do that. As far as some questions, I live on 18th Avenue, and on 18th Avenue in Surf, there's this pipe that goes across the street, and it's for drainage. Well, the water just continues to accumulate at both ends of that pipe. It rained last night, and there is a little water in there. What happens, though, on the weekend, DJs washes their garbage cans, and they drain the water on 18th, and it just runs down there. And the water just continues to accumulate. It was a health hazard last year. Mosquitoes, garbage just sits in the pipe and in the water. I know they just paved Surf last spring, I think it was. And I talked to the contractors, and they said, no, there's nothing we can do about that. But I'm hoping that something can be done. As I walk my grandson up to the beach, he has to jump over this puddle. And if he doesn't make it, it's disgusting. The other thing is 18th and Schneider. They did the hydrant there. And once they repaved the street, it wasn't level. And here again, there's water that builds up when it rains. So if someone could look into that and maybe take care of that.
18th Avenue is a mess.
Oh, it gets worse, believe me. Now I'm talking about garbage. It's not even Memorial Day, and DJ's being open. Listen, I know, living on 18th Avenue, I've been there for 12, 13 years. I moved in. I knew what I was going to get, but it's not even Memorial Day, and there's just garbage on the street. My wife goes around with her rubber gloves and bag, and she's starting to clean up already. Last year, they hired teenagers to come and clean. Most times it worked, sometimes they didn't make it all the way to B.
Oh, hold on, real fast. We have a director of public works. We're gonna be cleaning this summer from Ocean all the way up to B along 18th Avenue. Yes,
sir. Next thing, there's a noise violation. A noise on no noise ordinance. Is there any way I can find out how many tickets were issued last summer and by who? Was it initiated by residents, or did the police just drive by and say, gee, these kids are going crazy, let me write them up?
Well, it's a combination. That's part of the reason why we have the police out there on bikes and sneak up. So we can, if you leave the
Give me your email.
BA, your info, we'll get that.
Oh, you'll go.
A little time to collect for you, but.
We'll write it down whenever you're ready.
Okay. And last thing is really some jetties. Is there any reason why the jetties start at night? Was there a rationale? It's been there for years. Yeah.
Don't know.
Those,
The last jetty that we put in was 12th Avenue. That was the last jetty. That's the newest jetty. They've all been notched, but the 8th Avenue jetty's been there for, you know, maybe it was there because there used to be a wooden, what do you call it?
Oh, 16th Avenue, right?
Yeah, 16th Avenue, a pier that went out there, and probably the jetty might have been put in to protect the pier. That's the only thing I can come up with. You know what? We have a historical society, and I'm sure if you type in beach jetties, the Coast Advertiser will probably come up with when the jetties were put in, and it might tell you when the 8th Avenue jetty was put in and why it was there. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Expect a little more out of the town historian. That's all we're getting.
Barney's, that was great. What do you say? Yeah. Beer.
Hello, everyone. It's Louis Polito, Dina Manor Apartments over on 16th Avenue. Mayor Doherty, ever since you were elected, you've done everything you could to do what's best for what's Belmar is. And one of the biggest things you did was to make your efforts to put more beach-related expenses on the beach utility. Doing that has allowed us to benefit from that very well by no tax increases over the past 5 years and many other benefits, more safety in the streets and so on. I really do believe that you should continue doing that. I think it's right for the town, and I really look forward to hoping to see that the lawsuit is dismissed sooner as possible. The other thing I want to say really is, regarding the 10th Avenue Pavilions. Ever since Sandy, this town has pretty much stayed ahead of the game from all the other towns in the area that have suffered. We've been constantly ahead, one of the first towns to have boardwalks back up and running. We've gotten a lot of recognition from a lot of people coming to our town because we have constantly stayed on top of getting back from Sandy as much as possible before everyone else. The 10th Avenue Pavilion, if we keep getting delayed, if we keep getting constantly pushed back or sidelined or what have you, these buildings are part of what made Belmar so attractive to everybody. So I think we should go forward with this. I think you're doing the right thing by bundling this in because it helps so many people at the same time in one shot. Everyone in South End, the town which is suffering from flooding, gets to get our building back up so that people can start enjoying it, both locals and our visitors, okay? And I think it's important that we move ahead with this because we do not want to fall behind other towns who are now slowly catching up. So we need to move ahead, and I really applaud your efforts to keep moving ahead, and I support that you keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Gene Murray, 710 8th Avenue. Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to thank the Women's Club of Belmar. They had a bingo. They threw bingo over in our building, and they brought prizes and cakes and cookies and coffee, and they really got the people out of their apartments, and they've done a real great job, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. I think Claire is a member. I'd like to thank everybody, all the women who were
involved. It was a lot of fun.
And we had a good time, and with all these lawsuit cases and Kenny Pringle and his friends. And Kenny Pringle is a friend of mine. I've been a friend of mine for 30 years, and I hope we continue to be friends. But I think it just boils down to the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. That's all I want. Thank you for listening.
I want to begin by saying, Matt, I think that we owe you a big debt for the Lake Como. I really think you personally had a lot to make a big impact in getting that done. So, and plus all the work that other people did, and I'm not diminishing that, but I just want
you did a lot.
I appreciate that. And I thought you eloquently spoke earlier about Lake Como and how people suffered from the flooding and understand the importance of it. I just raised one question about the bundling, and my concern about the bundling is, you talked about not doing it, doing it because of cost. What is the cost if it were bundled for grants and then bundled for pavilions? How much more would it cost to make it two?
I don't know the exact number, but it would cost more. And well, to me, I feel we have an obligation to spend your money as wisely and as efficiently as possible. It's not our money, it's your money. So we want to make sure that whatever it is spent, we do it at the lowest cost possible.
Right, and I understand that. I wish, though, you as a council and mayor would know that cost, because my fear is the risk, and that may be done timely in terms of Lake Como, and people's feeling about the pavilion. The vote was no. I don't know what the strength of that is, but I would not like to see Lake Como not proceed because people have feelings about the pavilions. And so I personally think the risk could be that there could be more done in terms of petitions or whatever. And I ask that you really consider the cost and be sure you're willing to take the risk. I do not want to lose time with Lake Como, and I want it done this year. And my fear is that we will lose time with that, and that we will suffer, and we experience the flood. You understand it. And I ask that not happen, and I think it's in your control. And I think I'd like to know the cost for the bundling. I would like it to make a clear decision, if you bundled the grants, that at least you know what the trade-offs are. Because if people say, I don't want the pavilions, and the answer was no on those pavilions, and I'm not saying I'm against the pavilions, I'm saying the voice needs to be heard, and I think it's important that it be heard. And people, if they don't feel they're heard around that, and they're bundled, and so therefore they have to say no because they don't want it, I think it's an injustice here. So I ask that I appreciate all you're doing, I just ask that you really consider that and be clear that it's worth that risk. Because I really will be so, and everybody will be, if that, because of time, we lose the grant.
Right.
Okay.
And just to be clear, whether it's bundled or not bundled, people could still challenge it and do a petition against it anyway.
I don't understand.
Whether we put it all together or you break it out, someone can put a petition together to challenge the bonds that require to build the pipe anyway.
No, but my understanding is you have to challenge the ordinance, and in bundling the ordinance
That's what I'm saying.
is the loop that needs to be looked at, because if the ordinances weren't bundled and they were done separately, then you're right. This is my understanding, you know more than I do, but that then you could go after the bond, for the pavilion's sake.
No, what I'm saying is, if you unbundle them all, let's say we did 3 separate ordinances for each one.
Right.
Someone could challenge the ordinance for the pipe.
Oh, yes, I know, but I don't see that as a big issue. I don't think people will. I don't see really, come on,
I don't disagree with you, but you and I think a certain way. Unfortunately, not everyone does. Like you want to get it done this year, we're going to be as aggressive as possible. So we want to put the bonds in place, get our bids in, work to a contractor, have the contractor begin, hopefully this fall. They're not going to finish this. This is a big problem.
Yeah, but it'll be started.
But at least it'll be started.
Yeah.
You're right. That's our goal. We've already started that. We start monkeying around and trying to figure out, well, are people going to challenge this or not challenge that, or they're going to challenge the streetscapes, but they won't challenge the pavilions, or they're going to challenge the pavilions but not the pipe, or challenge the pipe and the pavilions.
But isn't it true that if the ordinance are bundled, they cannot oppose one, they have to oppose the whole ordinance?
That's true. What I'm saying is they could also oppose all 3 unbundled anyway. It doesn't, if someone's going to oppose it, they're going to oppose it.
No. That I respectfully will disagree with you. Because if I don't like the Lake Como, and the only way I can do it, and I want the pavilion, and the only way I can do it is attack the whole ordinance, then I go after the whole ordinance. If they're separate ordinances, I can go after the one I want. So I think
Unbundling doesn't protect anything. If you think,
oh, I think it does.
I understand that, but I'm telling you that people can challenge anyone. People can challenge the public safety bill. There are people who don't want that building built. I'm telling you they don't.
No, but when you bundle, I can't separate it because I have to go after that ordinance.
Well, no one should go after the ordinance at the beginning.
I'm not even saying that.
No,
What I'm
you're saying,
saying is it's complicated.
No, it's actually really, really simple. Having one ordinance with 3 things on it is super simple. You start breaking it out, it gets more expensive, it becomes more inefficient, and you can have multiple challenges all over the place. Hopefully people understand that we are one town, and even though they don't necessarily live around Lake Como, they're not going to challenge this bond so that we can put it together, get the pipe built, then get the grant money to pay off the loan, pay off the bond. So eventually, none of this is even a cost. Like I mentioned to you, the pipe out of Silver Lake, which was $1.7 million, is that right, Glenn? $1.7 million. You are going to pay for it for the next 20 years.
Yeah,
No grant money.
I'm glad they paid for it.
I agree. And I would gladly pay for your pipe where I live, it doesn't do anything for me. Because I believe that we should be one unified town. Not everyone agrees with you and me. But thank you very much. Sorry, it's 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Tom Schiffer, 1000 River Road. Just a little more on this bond about the pavilion and the pipe. Just to clear things up, it's a parliamentary trick of putting something that's been voted down in this particular case on an ordinance with something that's very popular, the pipe. It's always done that way. People do that. This is the way politics runs. So you have to, if you're going to challenge, you have to challenge, as the lady said, the whole ordinance. Also, I think you jeopardize us, Mr. Mayor, into another special election here on this. I wish you hadn't done that. I realize how things go, but this is really kind of crummy. But it is what it is, right? And we're going to deal with it. Somebody will challenge them and we'll have to end up going for a special election. What was that, 22 grand? Thank you very much.
17,000.
All right. 17? Okay, that's 5,000 left, okay? Well, we just saved $5,000, didn't we? Okay. On the Clary Park. Are the bathrooms gonna be open there this year?
Bathrooms gonna be open in the
There'll be Porta Johns this summer, and then phase 1 includes bathrooms that we plan to start to fall.
Yeah, Porta Johns this summer, bathrooms.
Second summer.
Started this fall, but yes.
This is the second summer of Porta Johns.
Porta Johns, yes, sir.
All right, Porta Johns. This is the second summer. Hopefully by the 3rd year, the next year, the bathroom will be back in order. Doesn't seem like a tremendous project. We're talking about all this money we're about to spend, and we can't keep a bathroom open. Pretty good.
Well, remember, the money we're talking about tonight, couldn't.
I understand, Mr. Mayor. About the boys, that was brought up before, the boys policing up and everything. That's fine. I'm all for that. And whatever they make, they make. That's good. But the job is to police up. Cigarette butts, trash, everything else. That's not, really nasty. They're supposed to pick up. They're not supposed to be walking around chewing the fat with each other. Picking up papers and trash and butts is the job. You don't give a boy a bag and walk away and figure he's going to do what he's supposed to do without being watched. That's why they're boys. No more of that. They got to do what they're supposed to do. Pick up trash. Another thing, I talk about a little snow. Of course, This year, well, this past winter, we had some cold weather, and that was the thing. We never had a big shot snowfall, but we'd have snow, then it remained cool, and we had more snow, and it stayed around, and nothing melted off. We didn't have much melting, and it stayed around. But each time, the plows went down, and sometimes we'd only have an inch or so after a whole snowfall overnight. 1 inch. But the plows are running around with the plow down, and if you look around town, we've got all sorts of curbs, all banged up, all over town, especially over in the Acme parking lot. And that's just new stuff that we just built and everything. They're all chopped up. So this idea of the plows running, that's good. But you can't, for an inch of snow, you can't be running 30 miles an hour down the road with the plow down. You're not pushing anything. You're creating damage. So let's try to straighten out that next year. On the Shade Tree Commission, that's you, right, Brian?
Correct.
All right. Now we're getting a lot of bad trees, you know, all up and down Main Street.
Yes.
Real bad trees. And another thing that we got going on here, I don't know what can be done, but we got a lot of vandalism of the trees. I don't know what the hell, how drunk are you to go after a tree? Jeez, but everywhere you look, you've got branches going off trees. Every single year, not even only in the summer, all through the year.
I can't explain it. I don't know why people would do it. But as far as shade tree, I believe the DPW just got a new bucket truck. And probably in the fall, they can go around and start doing some more trimming of the trees themselves.
Well, we got the civilian population trimming all sorts of stuff all the time. Herbicide.
No.
Sorry, you only got 10 more seconds, sorry.
Say again?
You only got about 10 more seconds.
Okay. I'm against both pavilions. Against. Please don't force us into another special election. That's what you're about to do.
Bring in signs for the trees that say, "Leave me alone."
Maybe you could disguise yourself as a tree.
There you go. Hide in the forest, look like a tree.
There you go.
Yes.
That's going to be Tom Lewis. Yes, sir.
Me?
Yep. You have 3 minutes left.
David Shack, 302 C Street. First of all, we borrowed, we spent like 1.8 million on Silver Lake, borrowed like 1.5, or I don't remember the exact number. No petitions, right? Nobody objected, right? Now, with Lake Como, it's a $6.4 million project. We're getting 6.2 million. Thank you, Uncle Sam. So we're only borrowing 200,000, 204,000 for that project. We don't even need a bond, right? Like, it's only 200,000.
No, stop. And they're going to start spreading stuff around. It's not true. You have to bond first. You have to get the contractor. The contractor has to finish the project. Then we take those paid invoices that we pay for with the bond. We go to the Department of Environmental Protection and say, look, we did everything. We did it the right way. Please reimburse us for this.
We're not bonding for 1 million.
But listen, then they reimburse us. We take that money and then we pay down those notes. That's why we're going to borrow at 6-month intervals to keep the interest rate as low as possible, to save money for taxpayers and get reimbursed as quickly as we can. But no. And again, don't spread this throughout town. You have to bond first.
The ordinance doesn't say that, only says that we're bonding 4-point-something million on that, right?
There's bonds and there's notes. You have to do short-term, you do a note. You're not going to do a 20-year bond on something you're going to pay off in 12 to 24 months. You pay a higher interest rate. We want to save taxpayer money, so we do short-term notes. You have to, the money has to be there, then we pay it out, then they reimburse us for it. If we don't pay the contractor, there's no reimbursement.
Okay, that's a short-term note.
Well,
But
these are
it's
all,
not-
these are all short-term. Everything
Okay.
that we talked about
All right.
tonight is going to be short-term, except maybe 10th Ave, because that'll be longer term on each utility. But
Okay.
FEMA's gonna reimburse us for Taylor. The state, EDA, Economic Development Agency, reimburses us for streetscape, and DEP reimburses us for the pipe. At the end of this is gonna be, I mean, what's the total? $300,000 to the taxpayers for all three of these projects?
Well, as far as the Lake Como outflow pipe, I think it's ludicrous to think that anybody, you put up this straw man argument because there's a couple of uninformed anonymous commenters on some blog, as if that's somehow some kind of.
It's your blog.
I know it's my blog.
That's some blog. It's
Yeah.
your blog.
So-
You have responsibility for your blog. It says, no reason why we should pay for the Lake Como.
I didn't write that. That was
It's
just a
your
commenter.
blog.
Well, look.
Some blog somewhere.
Okay. Do you ever read the comments in the Newark Star Ledger? Does that mean that they shouldn't be a newspaper because of some of the dopey comments that come into that? People send dopey comments to blogs. I don't know why it's a subject of a city council
Ask me a
meeting.
question, I'm gonna answer it. The Newark Star Ledger has, people make comments. They make them anonymously. They police those comments. Yes,
Well,
they
I
do.
see them.
There are other comments that they withhold because
Well, me
otherwise
too.
they'll get sued.
Me too.
I like you a lot. No one's gonna sue you. You don't have enough money to sue. Newark Star Ledger has a lot of money. They have a lot of money. People will sue them. But that's why they police it. Same thing with the Asbury Park Press.
Well-
Actually, a lot of them are moving to where you have to put your own name.
I don't know why anonymous comments sent to my blog is any kind of evidence that anybody in this town would oppose and petition against the Lake Como outflow project. It's completely ludicrous, the whole concept of it.
David, we agree with you, but it's on your blog.
Yeah, well, I allow people to speak their minds on my blog, even when they're wrong. Even when I disagree. But the point to that during your speech is
At
being
the end of the day,
some
you
kind
have
of.
to take, it's your blog, you have to take responsibility.
Absolutely not. I didn't say those. Those people, I allow people to speak their minds. It's called a forum. It's called give and take. It's called expressing your opinions. But you think I should only publish comments that I agree with on the blog? It's ridiculous. I let people speak, on the blog, and some people have wrong opinions. But the point to that is being some kind of indication that people might oppose the pipeline is just completely ridiculous. So anyway, I'm done for the night. Thank you.
Colleen, can you answer me, how much is it estimated that it's gonna cost to rebuild Taylor Pavilion? About 4.1 million.
4.1 million.
And how much are we gonna get reimbursed from FEMA for that $4.1 million?
Every cent that we are entitled.
So we are, the pavilion is almost paid for by FEMA. We have to bond first, and it's gonna cost us $4.1 million to build the building. Once it gets built and we show them that we paid the contractor, FEMA's gonna give us $3,895,000. Why would anyone complain about that? Please, how are you gonna get it?
They don't want it.
You don't, but most of the people in town want the
They don't
pavilion.
care about safety.
Now,
I don't want to play.
so, it's gonna cost us $4.1 million, but they're gonna give us $3,895,000. So really, it comes out to about $200,000 for a building that we have to pay for 20 years and a bond rating of AA3, which we are paying back at 0.2%. Over 20 years, we have to pay back $200,000 at 0.2% over 20 years. It doesn't get any cheaper than that. Oh my goodness. I mean, I just can't believe the arguments that you might go to referendum again over $200,000 over 20 years at 0.2. People, look at the real facts. Tom, you don't want the pavilion, you're totally wrong. Some of the stuff you come up here, the trees, I agree with you. But not wanting that pavilion, you don't, I don't want to say what I'm thinking. Next.
Nor I. Yes, sir.
Burke, 608 10th Avenue. First of all, does anybody have a phone number or address for Arthur Murray? I feel like I have to learn how to dance with all the dancing that's going on around here. To be clear, the 10th Avenue Pavilion is not part of the bundling, correct?
Correct.
That stands by itself. So
Correct.
anybody who wants to go with the 10th Avenue Pavilion, that's not even an issue.
Hopefully no one does.
I do, however, and I congratulate you on the 6.2 million for the Lake Como. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think we should get ahead and go with it as soon as possible. Tying Taylor Pavilion into it, I think is sort of disingenuous. I'm sorry. I'm for the pavilion. I'm for rebuilding Taylor Pavilion. I'm for rebuilding Taylor Pavilion like it was before it was destroyed by the storm. I hate to see the people who last year voted no to rebuilding the pavilions being ignored. And I think that's what's happening with your bundling. Putting the rebuilding of Taylor back in with this is just creating animosity amongst those people who were very vehement last year and where they stood on the position. I see you talk about cost effectiveness of having the three separate ones, and you sort of danced around. I'm saying let's put bundle two of them and put Taylor out there by itself and let people decide. If more people want it, they'll come and they'll say it. You can approve it for your 4.1 and your 2 million. To me, that comes to $6.1 million as opposed to $7 million last year. You know, I don't know whether we got revised plans. You said bathrooms were removed or what have you. I'm sure there's plans. I would like to see some new plans looked at for Taylor before we really went ahead. And I think it needs to be separated out. It has nothing to do with not wanting Lake Como to proceed as fast as possible. I think just tying them together is disingenuous. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Just, again, if you separate it, it costs more money. There are some people who, I know it's not going to make happy, but look, there are people who are unhappy, as I mentioned, about the palm trees on the beachfront. There are people who are unhappy about the church bells at St. Rose. So our goal is not to make everyone happy. Our goal is to be leaders and do what we think is right for the taxpayers of the borough of Belmar. That's what we're doing. And I would tell you, no one was ignored. That original bond was $7 million. Now, if you look at it, when you combine them, it's 6.1. That's a $900,000 reduction. That's not ignoring. That's listening to.
But you said some of it's already been done, so that's what makes it less.
Well, no, but not in that bond.
Nancy.
Not Nancy answering you with a question, with an answer you don't like. I
Well,
understand. You would rather us spend.
I would rather see actual cost. I agree with being cost effective, but I would rather see us break it out so we knew exactly what we're talking about.
And also another thing, people want to change the way Taylor looks or 10th Ave. If we make any changes, we got to pay an architect, you got to pay an engineer. You want to take out a window in one of those places, it drives the cost up.
Well, why not consider all those facts all by themselves without muddying the waters with these other issues?
We're not, no. You understand? We're not muddying the waters.
But how much more money is, you say cost effective, but somebody asked how
Cost
much.
effective.
You haven't been able to say how much more money you're talking about by breaking them out into two separate, say, three separate bonds.
Any additional cost, if it costs an extra $1, it's too much.
I would disagree. If it costs more than an extra $1, I'll pay for it. I'll pay up to 100. I think the people in this town would pay for it to find out exactly what's necessary.
I'll tell you what, we'll give you the lawsuits we settled with $25,000, you can pay those two.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, you know, I thought about a lot of what you just said, Tom. I had the same thoughts of myself. You know, I don't think it's a secret to a lot of people that I'm not a big fan of the design that we came up with that was part of the referendum last summer. I think that those buildings, you know, to be critical again, I think that they architecturally show a lack of thought, and environmentally, they definitely are not on the cutting edge where I think they should be. That being said, to go back and redesign anything is just more money. And the reason I'm in favor of this plan is because I think it's the cheapest thing we can do. I think that referendum last year was people voting on $7 million costs. Whether they interpreted what we were actually going to cost, what the final cost was actually going to be or not, people saw $7 million and they said no. $7 million for 2 buildings, we don't want to do that. You cannot say we haven't listened to the public. We've broken one building out, which a lot of people in this room said, oh, let's play for the 10th Avenue Pavilion off the beach utility. That's what we're doing. We're doing that. You know, and disingenuous as it may be, this is a way to get it done. You know, if we mess around with it, break it out, give more people an opportunity to make us spend another special election fee, and go through all that, that's just more time than it takes. And believe me, some people in this room definitely don't want the buildings there. I think most people in town want and feel that we need those buildings done, and this is the cheapest way, the most cost-efficient way, the quickest way to get it done, and to achieve a lot of things. The pipe, the streetscape, and the buildings that we really, really need down there at the beach.
And to add on to that comment, also, the idea of the special election meant there was a campaign. So one side said vote yes, and the other side said vote no. Part of the reason they said vote no, they said because we can do it, we can build both buildings for $4.2 million. They said we have a plan, we're going to build both buildings for $4.2 million. Since August 19th to today, there is no plan to build both those buildings for $4.2 million. And I'll tell you, there never was. So that's another reason why, like, if we could have built it for 4.2, we would have. And that's my concern with the pipe, is people are going to say, I mean, there are some people that say, we don't want it. Tom Gilbert doesn't want 10th Avenue Pavilion. There's always going to be people opposed to what we're doing as a council. But we were all elected here. Everyone here is duly elected. I was just reelected in November, going door to door. Guess what people asked me about? The pavilions. Tom was elected going door to door. They asked him about the pavilions. You know, so we didn't have a public discussion on it because my opponent wouldn't debate me publicly, so I can't force him to. But there's absolutely nothing disingenuous about this. There's no one being ignored. It's the absolute opposite.
Peter Pyro, 300 North Boulevard. We thank a number of people for their work on the pipe. Colleen Collins deserves a strong standing ovation. Everything. The file I've got is, I'm sure her file is 3 times as large. She worked tirelessly, she pushed the right buttons, she knew the right people to call. And I saw you and the governor there after the speech in the town, waved to you, and I said you were a man of your word, you came through. I'm afraid I have a question about the timing of the $6.185 million from the state, the federal government. How long do we have as an opportunity to get that money if there is a petition filed and if there is a lawsuit filed?
Typically with CDBG money, it's 2 years.
Completed within 2 years, typically.
Completed within 2 years, yeah.
So if the people who felt strongly that the pavilions the first time around file their petition and then file a suit, or if they file a motion to say that this is an attempt to circumvent the pre-existing election on this issue, we would have sufficient time to restart and make this a loan for the bonding with regard to the outfall to the lake.
I don't know what you mean.
I'm just looking for a time frame.
Our time frame is tonight, first reading, then we do second reading, first meeting in June, get the money in place, go out to bid. It's a shovel-ready project, which helped us in the competition. We would look to start sometime this June, sometime this fall.
My question was, if the people from the opposition who filed with regard to the pavilions the first time around file again, and how long did that process, how long did that litigation take with regard to the pavilions?
You mean the
Special election.
Special election, right?
I forget exactly. I mean, we had it August 19th, and I think that was about the quickest we could do it. But there's a certain time frame. April could get you information.
So if per chance that happens, I just wanted to plan good, because you've heard some people indicate their objections with regard to the bundling. And is there sufficient time to do Plan B? That's all my question is.
When you say Plan B, what would Plan B be then?
If there is the petition filed, and if there's an election had with regard to the consolidated and grouped three proposals, could we start again with regard to the 6.185, which we already have from the government covering 99% of that particular project? Would there be sufficient time if there is an election?
I appreciate the speculation there. I know in the lawsuit, I think it was 60 or 90 days where it was decided, I think that we have opportunity between those 2 years. In the Chancery Court, the assignment judge had made a decision within a pretty quick period of time, so I'm not quite sure if we can the mayor and council down as to a speculative.
I don't know, I just, the timeframe,
You're asking for a timeframe that they don't, first is based on speculation. Being the last time the assignment judge made a pretty quick decision, so, I think it would be hard pressed for this mayor and council to say, yeah, there is ample opportunity, in light of the fact that you've got 2 years.
I think answer to the first question, could we 2 years to get our act together with regard to the
To have it completed. So, I mean, I don't, we want to get this thing done now. Ideally, we start in the fall, we finish the spring of next year, submit those paid invoices, and get as much money back, say, by the end of 2016, going into 2017, and then pay off these notes.
I just would hate to lose the 6.185 if per chance you have an election and then we have to start over.
You're absolutely right. That's why there should be no election.
And you understand how strongly those people felt and how hard they worked. They worked as hard as what Colleen did to get the project done. So I'm not arguing the position. I'm just saying I want to know what the Plan B is, and you answered my question. Thank you, and thank you for your information. So thank you, Colleen. Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't sure who you were pointing at, but this gentleman also had his hand up. Good evening. My name is Linda McNamara. I live at 110 North Boulevard. I want to thank you so very much for your efforts, and yours especially. You've done wonders, and we're very appreciative of it. I too would concur with what Martha said and the gentleman said about bundling. I'm very concerned that those people who object to the pavilions are going to cause us to lose out on our pipe, which we need desperately. On another note, the Shade Tree Commission land. The palm trees, your thing? The palm trees?
No.
Is that shade tree? I want to know.
They do provide shade, but that's, the palm trees are, I guess, did Mike leave?
They're Colleen and Mike.
Okay, Colleen, you can better answer the palm trees, and that these are not just annual palm trees. These are palm trees that are hybrid palm trees that will survive a winter's in New Jersey weather. Can you explain?
Yes. So it is a hybrid palm. They're backed by the palms are backed by popular demand, and Mike and I were dedicated to try to find an option that would survive our winters. So we consulted with lots of growers and came to this particular breed, and part of the fuzzy trunk that you see is part of that protection that will allow these to survive year round. And we have a 100% guarantee on them. So
Are they being watered every day? They are being watered every day because they've just implanted.
Yeah.
No one told you that they put soil moist in and that's going to be good enough?
We are dedicated.
Putting water on each tree every day? Thank you. Yeah, because I see those leaves a little bit drying out, so make sure.
I haven't seen anybody watering.
Okay.
They are.
But thank you, I just wondered if it came with your bailiwick, you know.
If you like, do you like them?
Do you want the truth, or shall I be polite?
Tell the truth, your colleague, and be polite to us.
Yeah.
They're lovely, lovely.
That was great. George, 111 3rd Avenue, Belmar. First of all, the palm trees, I love the palm trees. It's awesome. But you already see people, the weather hasn't even been that good. People are taking pictures of the roof, taking pictures with the anchors, still taking pictures with the plaques with their names, people that donated. The other thing, the bundling thing and everything, I'm really happy when I heard the news in the morning last week about Lake Como or Belmar, Lake Como getting the pipe, getting that kind of grant. I thought that was awesome. It's no secret I want the buildings. Some people feel it's disingenuous, but I think we're saving $900,000 this time, something like that, right? And when we lost the vote, I was really depressed, but I'm not trying to get into politics to it, but that was, I think, the same day James Foley was executed in Syria. So I realized that the buildings weren't like everything, but I was bummed out about it. I just think the town looks great. Like again, I'm repeating myself, Barry and Sonny with the buildings they're building, Merkler with North End Builders, the stuff they're doing, Capaco and this other partner. When I come over the bridge coming south and I look over and see the town, and I just think the town looks awesome. Public Works, I am a public worker employee, so I used to own a business in town. But I think everybody, believe me, when we go to work, we have a meeting, we go out there to work, trying to get everything together, and I'm just really happy to live here. I'm happy to be an American, and I think, like, you know, I really want the building, right? And I feel bad, like Tom said, about feeling disingenuous because it is, I don't know.
Gotta get it done.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Rich Seidel, 2010 3rd Avenue, Belmar, New Jersey. Proud to be Belmar, New Jersey. And I just want to thank everyone who really put in so much sweat equity and hard time, especially Colleen, April, in getting things done, all these projects moving along. I'm really proud of you all. I guess there was a comment made, I don't want to single anyone out, just recently, well, what benefit do I get if I live over by Silver Lake versus something over the south end of town? Well, I was scared to death after Sandy. I walk around all the town, everywhere. And I take a step, I thought the worst things. I thought we were never going to see any rebuilding. I thought people would walk away from their homes. But instead, the town got together, the individual property owners who love Belmar did so much themselves to get things done. Mormons came down, people came down all over to help us. You look at the south end of town now, and I'm sure it's likewise in various areas over by Shark River and everything around there, but you look at the south end of town, and when taxes are reassessed, do you have any idea how much dollars that's going to generate for the town? I just think we've had so
Get
much...
that reassessment going now.
You'll be a king, not a mayor. But when you look at things, I think people have to look at the total perspective. We want to bring business to town. We want to do the right thing. And we don't want to cost people money. So I'd like people to just take a step back and just reflect how lucky we all are. Because this town has come a long way. Can we do things better? Certainly we can do things better. but we really have come a long way.
Makes a really good point. If you go, take 20th and Surf, right? Just stand there and look at all the new construction, all the new investment. And that's part of the reason why we fought so hard for this pipe, is because, you know, these people are spending, again, their taxes are going to go up at some point, but they're spending a lot of money and invested in homes, and, you know, I know some folks that are now going to live there year-round. You know, it's important to put this pipe in as an insurance policy. You know, and you know, when you look at the investment, it makes total sense. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Vincent Eman, 1218 Oakwood. I was very active in the petition. There were many of them. It was should have taken off more weight. It was quite an active year, and when every time you changed the ordinances, we had to get another petition. And so I got to know my neighbors very well. And I touched base with them before the meeting, and there isn't anyone that I know, and I know there are some people that don't want any buildings. And it's propaganda to say that people who were on the petition committee that did in any way help to make that vote, that 60-40, 60 no vote success, the majority were against all pavilions. And that would be a mischaracterization of what actually went on. So it really had to do with the cost of the two buildings. And actually, we tried, if you know, Brian, we tried very early on to be more active in the actual planning, the architectural plans. It's not like some of us were sitting around being poor citizens, not caring about Belmar, not caring about the community and what those pavilions would look like. Some of us cared more about the ecology of those pavilions than others. But we were at all times actively participating, wanting to participate, wanting to have roundtables where we could discuss. Now, you just threw out a figure tonight that $3 million and something is going to be paid by FEMA. That's not public knowledge. I don't have it. Nothing is being publicly disclosed here. There's the perception that people in this town feel that many people are going to, this bundling thing, that we're going to vote against the pipe and the work in Lake Como. And I asked my neighbors, I said, is that an issue to you? And they said, no, those people need that. I said, do you feel that it's disingenuous that $900 is knocked off of the price of the two pavilions? And they said, yes. You know, when I have to dig through public records, I have to go through statements and find a $1.1 million engineering fee for two pavilions. That wasn't volunteered, but you know, you gotta give the citizens in this town a little credit for having to dig through an awful lot of junk to get the actual facts. So I know what arrangements were made in New Jersey with FEMA payments, Brian, last year regarding the two pavilions. So when you gave me that figure, I don't know where it came from, but if you would like to supply it to the people in this town that vote for you guys and have the right to information. So if you want to tell us how much the engineering fees are this time, please do. And we're not enemies. We're not enemies. As I said, none of my neighbors, of all, like the 50, 60 people that signed the petition every time I went to see them, I knew one. Yeah, there is one person who didn't want any pavilions. Both of them wanted pavilions, and they wanted them built with what FEMA was going to pay us for the pavilions that were destroyed. Reasonable prices. And again, it's only been, 8 or 9 months, and there's none of us in town who went through all the paperwork and realized that these were inflated prices for two pavilions, and now we're there again. So you knock off $900. we're right back where we started from. And from when we deal with the Faulkner Act and we deal with the Constitution of the state of New Jersey, thank God, we can have a petition just on the cost of the 2 pavilions. We don't need your approval. We don't. The people can say, here's the price that you put in the 1, there's the price you put in the 2, and we can go around town, starting tomorrow, has nothing to do with Lake Como, and we can go around and get a petition saying, we do not want to spend the 1.9 million on the safety, and we do not want to spend the 4 point whatever on the Taylor. And we can have 375 or whatever signatures and be back here. Thank you.
Hey, Ted. In tonight's ordinance, 2015-22, on page 2, it does break down where the estimated cost of building the building, it says $4.1 million. And on in the middle column, estimated maximum amount of bonds and notes, which we're going to be reimbursed, 3.8. Okay.
There were assorted, I know that the state said we could use we could take, there was 13 destroyed, we could take the lump sum of those that were destroyed and put them all towards one building. Is that what's still being done?
Well, before, we were putting them towards both. Now we're going to pour all into one.
And that amount is 3 point.
3 point, whatever it is, 3.8 something, plus another $720,000 in my board line. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it. Let's go, Mets. Yankees.
I'm Bill Strauss, 1218 Oakwood. I do have a request for the council. I know you care about people with disabilities. That's no question. Blind people are disabled, people that can't walk are disabled, people that can't hear are disabled. I don't know who's in charge of the volume, but I can't hear a word anybody's saying except for Brian. Please, turn the volume up on this. Turn, the women, I can't hear you because your mic is 10 feet away from you. Yeah, make fun of me, go ahead.
Oh, I'm
But
not making
please,
fun. I'm just saying it's
Jennifer,
not
I can't hear
It's
you.
not on. I know
It's
that.
not on. Well, who's in
I
charge?
will project.
Please, I want to be hearing you. I don't want to be sitting here for 2.5 hours wasting my time. I can't hear a word. This is a disability. I can't hear good. Okay? You worry about people with disabilities. Well, I'm asking you, please, don't make me come to another council meeting and be disgusted like I am tonight that I can't hear anything. Can't hear Colleen at all. Can't hear him at all. And can't hear any of the people other than Teddy and Dave Schneck at the microphone. Forget the women at the microphone. I can't hear anything they're saying. Please, Mayor, please. Huh?
All right, see you now. No. He's waiting. No. You already spoke. You already spoke, right? Mark, you already spoke. Brandon. No, we're doing one person at a time.
Why can't we talk followers?
Brendan Reed.
Can't hear. Right into the microphone.
Brendan Reed, 109,000.
Hey, what's better? No, stay in the microphone.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, just 3 items. First, one.
We can't hear you yet. You gotta talk
some of the credit for the mobility device exchange that Councilman Cohn-Blepper mentioned should also go to my wife, Christine. It's actually her idea following her knee replacement last fall. We bought a cane and a walker, which fortunately we only used for 1 week, and we'll be gladly donating at the exchange when it opens next week. Second item is that, could you make a formal submission to NJ Transit by the May 21st comment deadline, and also inform our elected officials, express your concern about the 9% fare hike and its impact on Belmar, particularly on tourism, and also endorse the recommendations of the BBP of restoring the off-peak fare discounts for weekends and holidays. And also let our elected officials know on that? Okay. Now, thirdly, this is regarding the pavilions and the pavilions alcohol-related ordinances introduced for first reading. My view is that the Roland and Taylor public buildings owned, used by, and serving the people of Belmar. So why, they were destroyed, so what, we need both buildings, so why wouldn't we replace them? Also, isn't it less expensive and also less disruptive to Ocean Avenue to combine them rather than to spread them out? We had Ocean Avenue blocked with Sandy. If we only had all these projects done at once, one street closure and the story, let's get the job done rather than splitting it up and dividing it over successive years. Also, wasn't one of the issues in the pavilions vote last year the apprenticeship ordinance? And didn't council decided to scrap that ordinance because there was a fears that that ordinance was actually raising the cost? And now that we no longer have that ordinance in place, that we can get the lowest cost bidder? We don't know. And I'm also very curious, how come I hear so many more objections to the Taylor Pavilion being built than the Roland? I don't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies.
A point was brought up that I'd like to address.
Well, we can talk afterwards, because we, 5 minutes, one person each time. Yes, in the back. No, Mike.
Joy, he means Joy.
Joy. Joy.
He means Joy.
You can take my pen.
But he's not gonna take your time, you can either get up or not.
I'm up.
Joy Saints, 101 6th Avenue. Brian, I just want to... Chair, I just wanted to go over that $3,895,000 figure you said we're getting from FEMA. Is that what you're saying?
Hold on one second, Colleen, you wanna address that?
I'm going to get every dollar from FEMA that we earned.
Thank you.
You're going to get every dollar from FEMA
She's
that
gonna
what?
get, I'll repeat it, she's going to get every dollar from FEMA that we're entitled to.
Well, of course, and we just have to go on FEMA.gov to see what's been obligated, and it is not
No, that's what you do, and you tell people we're gonna get less than we are. And then you also call up FEMA pretending you work for the town when you don't, and you get information, you spread this information. Yes, you do. So Colleen is the one who works with FEMA, not you. You don't work for the borough. And she's gonna do everything she can to get as much money. Hopefully, she gets more than that from FEMA.
So we should ignore what is posted on FEMA.gov as the money being obligated for these projects. Just ignore that. And just go on that. We're going to try to get as much as we...
I think when people hear from you, they should understand that you have a political spin you're putting to it. Colleen is an employee of the Borough of Belmar. She's the one who acts for FEMA, not you.
I really know what you're talking about, but you divert. You had 3 issues that you said justified your bundling. One was the time frame for the grant, which you're saying now is 2 years on the Lake Como outflow.
I'm saying that HUD typically puts a 2-year or so limit on community development block grant money such as this.
Okay, and you're saying that's applicable here? There's a 2-year, you believe there's a 2, you're not sure, but you believe?
Well, I believe there is.
Okay. The street
Because
grant...
that would make sense working with other grants that came through the same program.
That would also be applicable to the street grant, 2
Correct.
years?
Correct.
Didn't we get the street grant last year?
We did.
Why did we wait?
We got to get moving on it.
Why didn't we?
Because we wanted to wait until we had some information back on this, so we can put it all together at one time and save taxpayer money.
And so it was also the cost of the board attorney for the bond. But we don't know what that cost is, but we are saving it for sure by bundling.
For sure.
Okay, for sure. Whatever the amount is.
You said
Yeah, no, okay. And the interest rate on the difference between the $7,760,000 versus the $4,100,000 is what? The difference that we're saving by making it 11 million.
I can't quantify what it is because we haven't gone out to.
Okay, so we really don't know what we're doing, do we?
No, we know what we're doing.
Okay.
We absolutely know what we're doing.
Okay.
We're going to build a
I'm going to try to
pipeline
talk
below.
quickly
We're going to
and loud.
And
I don't mean to be rude. I just want people to hear me.
We're going to put a building at 10th Ave, and we're going to put streetscapes along Main Street. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Will the pavilions be open all year round? Does anybody know that?
Taylor for sure will be open all year round.
Does anybody know what the
Let me ask
insurance?
you a question.
You did
Taylor
answer.
will, no, you said pavilions, it's two. Taylor will be open for sure year round. The 10th Ave will be open most of the year, but I'm not sure. It's really more the summer season, I'm not sure if we're gonna, it depends. We get.
There's a
are we
public
gonna have heat in
emergency,
the-
we'll need to have access to it.
Yeah, are we gonna have heat in the bathrooms? Or not public bathrooms?
Not
No, just Taylor, right?
Okay, so do we have any costs on the operation of these pavilions yet? I've been asking about that for a long time. Any insurance costs on these brand new buildings? Any staffing, additional staff that might be hired? Just heating, anything? Do we have a number? Anybody do any of that cost evaluation?
There's not gonna be any additional staff. The insurance comes under our blanket insurance policy, right? Flood insurance, we're gonna be required to get flood insurance for it now, we've never had it before, because, well, had some, but, well, no, one of them had flood insurance. But whenever you take money from FEMA, they require, just like a homeowner, they require you to get flood insurance. And the heating bill, no, I have no idea what the heating bill is
None
gonna
of the
be.
utilities or anything like that?
I don't know what the heating and air conditioning bill is gonna be, no.
Or any of the other costs, maintenance, servicing, any of the repairs, maintenance?
The maintenance will be done by the Department of Public Works like it does in every other building.
Okay. Are we going for a rebid on these pavilions?
Yes,
We are.
I just answered that question.
Oh, I'm surprised. Okay. And then I have one final question. So you're doing the 10th Avenue strictly from the beach utility fund, and you're not expecting to use any of the FEMA money on that? Did you say that you were going to combine all the money we're getting from FEMA and direct it towards the Taylor?
Colleen is working with FEMA right now, met with them Friday. We're moving very quickly, we just found out about the grant middle last week. And she's working on getting as much money as possible from FEMA, taking all that, putting it against the Taylor pavilion.
Okay. So you're thinking it's going to be $3,895,000, you're appropriating $4,100,000, but what happened, the $2 million for the 10th Avenue, you're thinking you're going to take it all out of the beach utility fund?
No, as I explained before, I explained this already, I don't know if you were here or not.
Maybe not.
Some of the, we believe, some of the public safety buildings will be charged to the general fund, not much. We believe we'll be able to put some of the Taylor Pavilion against the beach utility. But this is the cleanest, simplest way to move forward on getting all this rebuilt, is to put one where the majority is going to be on the beach utility, and the other one into the general fund, wrap it in with the other projects as well, go out to bid. You know, honestly, we're going to bid this, if we're lucky, we're going to get maybe one contractor to do all of it and get a great price on it.
Okay, because you said we couldn't do that. You said that we could never get them built for under the price we were going to pay with Epic. So now you have
Real
changed
quick.
your
I
mind?
told you we could never get them built for the $4.2 million that you were selling to people in this town. And I'm right, because since
Actually, I think I'm right, because you just admitted that we're going to build the pavilion on Taylor for $4.2 million, and the other building is going to be paid by the beach utility. So we are going to build them for $4.2 million. That's what I'm asking. How? Because to me, that's 6 point.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
It's 6.1. You know, $6,100,000. How does that end up not having a debt upon us? Where is that not?
I already explained that. I'm not going to explain it again.
Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Yes, sir. This is your first council meeting.
Tom Volker, 301 4th Ave. The Lord is here. First, let me compliment Mayor and Council on taking the lead, especially you, Matt, on taking the lead on the Lake Como flood problem. I think it's fantastic what you've accomplished and your team. Second, we haven't had a tax increase in 5 years. Most people think that's a good thing, but some people don't, and they file a lawsuit, which I'm afraid will increase our taxes. I hope they don't succeed. Thank you.
Mike here spoke once. Seeing no other public comment, I'll make a motion to close the public portion adjourned. Second. In favor?